more cloud, 15 or 16 degrees. Then it's widely wet and windy as we start Tuesday morning. A band of rain pushing its way north and eastwards, accompanied by some brisk southwesterly winds. Behind that, it is a case of sunny spells and a scattering of showers. That theme continues as we go into Wednesday, but temperatures are on the rise by later on in the week.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, this is Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie, on the show tonight.
The organisers, including convicted thugs and racists, are peddling hatred and division.
As thousands marched across the capital in the United Kingdom and the pro-Palestine protest, which protest was really peddling hate? Based and Bougie tells all from the United Kingdom march, and I do the same from the Nakba march also.
It took me many, many, many years of standing in front of people like yourself to understand I did not change my sex. I changed my appearance.
Buck Angel, famous transsexual who based her look on me, gave a speech at the Cambridge Union this week calling out the TQIA+. And former IDF spokesperson Jonathan Conricus discusses a very disturbing new 300-page report into the sexual abuse that Hamas committed on October 7th and why Jewish women have not been believed. And we've got comedians answering some crazy culture developments from a live studio audience. But first, the news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Josh. Good evening to you. 7:minutes, our headlines in the GB newsroom. The Culture Secretary says it will be a personal decision for the Prime Minister over whether he takes part in any possible leadership contest. Lisa Nandy criticised speculation at a battle for the top job as froth and nonsense, but voiced support for Andy Burnham, saying the Mayor of Greater Manchester would be a real asset to the Labour Party if he returns to Westminster. However, she said Wes Streeting risks restarting Brexit wars after he called to rejoin the European Union yesterday in his pitch to oust Sir Keir Starmer. Lisa Nandy says she's standing by the Prime Minister.
Government. I support the Prime Minister. I think he has defied the odds many times, and he made a promise to the British people which he feels strongly he doesn't have the right to walk away from, and he is going to deliver. The Prime Minister's been clear that he's going to fight. He's been clear that if there was any challenge, and there hasn't been a challenge, that he's going to stand in that contest. And he's been clear that we've got to usher in a decade of renewal in order to solve the problems that people face. And he deserves our support for that, and he has mine.
Meanwhile, the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, has criticised Angela Rayner over reports the former Deputy Prime Minister may put herself forward for a leadership contest.
I just think that if people think that there are rules for politicians, or Labour politicians, that are different from the rules for everybody else, they will get angry. Everyone should be playing by the same rules. Angela Rayner should not even be sniffing around a leadership contest right now. She is a disgraced former Deputy Prime Minister, a housing secretary who couldn't pay her housing taxes, and if I were her, I'd be sitting quietly rather than trying to pretend that everything's fine.
Police officers protecting the royal family at Windsor Castle are under investigation over allegations they slept while on duty. The Met's Professional Standards Department will assess if any officers should be placed on restricted duties. In June last year, an intruder managed to scale a wall and get into a restricted area before he was arrested. It's understood the royal family have been informed about the investigation, and a decision on the officers is expected before the end of next week. Donald Trump has issued a fresh threat to Iran after talks with the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. The US President says the clock's ticking and Iran better get moving fast or there won't be anything left of them. His conversation with Mr. Netanyahu comes days after talks in Beijing with his counterpart, Xi Jinping, after which President Trump said the Chinese president agreed Tehran must reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Earlier this week, Mr. Trump said the ceasefire in place with Iran since early April was on massive life support. An outbreak of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda has been declared a public health emergency of international concern. The World Health Organization says more than 300 suspected cases and 88 deaths have been reported, the majority of those in the DRC. But it adds the outbreak could potentially be much larger than current assessments, with significant risk of local and regional spread. There is currently no vaccine for the strain of the deadly virus, which is thought to have a fatality rate of 50%. Police Scotland says 2 officers were seriously injured as a result of violence in Glasgow city centre after Celtic's Premiership win against Hearts yesterday. Fans took to the streets to celebrate the dramatic final day decider, which Celtic won to make it 5 titles in a row. Now, the force said they were targeted when they went into the crowd to assist with a medical emergency. Bottles and other missiles were thrown. 14 arrests were made. Police say more will follow. And the Scottish rugby legend Scott Hastings has died at the age of 61. The British and Irish Lions centre won 65 caps for his country in an 11-year Test career that began in 1986 and he was part of the most recent Scotland team to win the Grand Slam in 1990 alongside his brother Gavin. Hastings announced in 2022 that he'd been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which could not be cured. A statement released by his son Corey and daughter Kerry Ann said Scott passed away peacefully surrounded by his family this morning, which also marked his late wife Jenny's birthday. You're up to date with the headlines. I'll be back with more at 8.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome to
Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. This is a show where we cast our gaze across the spectrum of culture, current affairs and politics, doing our best to bring a bit of common sense to that which has become senseless out there. Now, we have lots coming up on the show today, including Sal Grover on a terrible loss for Australian women, Buck Angel's speech at the Cambridge Union, and Jonathan Conricus on an exhaustive report necessary because no one will believe Jewish women. But first, tens of thousands of people marched yesterday in the Unite the Kingdom and pro-Palestine Nakba Day march taking place in central London. More than 4,000 police officers were deployed to manage any potential clashes between the rival groups and criminal activity. 43 arrests were made at the major protests, including 11 hate crime-related offences, with the Met Police linking 20 to the Unite rally and 12 to the pro-Palestine march. This comes as the PN condemned the nationalist protests in London as peddling hatred and division. But which one really was the hate march? Joining me now is the journalist and influencer Based and Bougie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So great to have you here. Big fan of your videos. You were yesterday at the Unite the Kingdom. What was your initial impression of it?
I absolutely loved it. I look forward to going to UTK every year because it almost feels like a festival. When I see the headlines of them trying to portray it as a far-right event, it honestly just feels like a festival. You go there, it's filled with hugs and kisses, and people are serving food. People are also preaching the word of Jesus Christ, which is extremely important to me. And the only bad thing to come out of yesterday's event was the rain. Honestly, that was the worst thing. But apart from that, it's just the one day in the year where patriots can literally just be patriotic and not feel ashamed, because obviously these days it's almost as though being patriotic is now demonized, or you're considered a racist. Now they're calling me a white supremacist and I'm black. So it's the one day in the year where you realise, OK, I'm actually not alone in my thoughts. So thank you, Tommy, for the UTK event, honestly.
Well, I think for the people out there like Sir Keir Starmer, he put out his message calling it a rally of hate. Mm-hmm. And far right, yeah, as you say, people like yourself, like I was Jewish, I was there, I had my Star of David out, didn't receive any grief. In fact, the opposite, lots of people coming up and shaking hands, lots of friendly conversations, lots of people from a lot of different ethnic minorities there. Yeah. It didn't feel in any way like a far right rally.
Yeah, anyone who's still calling UTK a far-right rally wants it to be a far-right rally, because if you actually took time to watch it, you will see that the whole choir is pretty much an African choir. Not only that, the production team behind, they're all Sikh. Most of the speakers as well, they're American, they're Jewish. Obviously, me, I'm an African woman as well. It's open to everyone. And the only thing about UTK is that the message is very, very simple. If you come into a country that's not indigenously yours, just love the culture, embrace the culture, and most importantly, respect the culture. And that's about it. So all the people who are trying to call the people who have attended the UTK rally far right or racist, no, you want them to be racist, and you're choosing to not see the truth, because I've been there for 4 years straight, and I've documented it. And not once have I ever been attacked. So I'm really confused to why people are so desperate to make it seem like it's some kind of far-right event, and it's really not.
Yeah, I mean, I also want to be clear that, to be fair, there was some things I saw that I didn't particularly like. I saw a lot of drunken guys, frankly, and some people climbing Churchill's statue. I didn't think that was appropriate at all.
Yeah.
I believe near the beginning of March, I wasn't there for that bit, but there was definitely like two far-right guys with a kind of Zionism controls the UK type. Interestingly, almost like a similar sign to what was at the Nakba march, which we'll talk about in a second. There's the horseshoe was there. Mm-hmm. That's not to say that they were actually part of the march. They were just placed near it, and a friend of mine actually approached them and challenged them and nearly got into a fight, unfortunately, about it. So there are people there who... But to be fair, also, I saw at the last year, there were a couple of definite far-right people there. They were challenged, and I saw Tommy Robinson reposted that, saying this is not who we want, and really called them out very, very strongly.
Yeah.
So I think it's unfair to put those people on him.
I know. I mean, if you think about it, not even a church is perfect. If you go to a church, you see so many sinners. You see people who have, maybe drunk issues, or who maybe still, nobody is perfect. So, of course, you're going to get the odd few bad fruits. But the one thing that I absolutely love about UTK and Tommy Robinson is that he always condemns it. Obviously, I always get a lot of slack from, the ethno-nationalist far-right. And Tommy Robinson has always come out to my defence and say, we're not going to do this, guys. This is a patriot, and I do not condone this. So there's not much he can do about people drinking. There's not much he can do about people deciding to be racist. But apart from that, you only really see like 2, 3 far-right people. And if you compare that to the millions of people who are out there giving me kisses and hugs and so happy and just enjoying the culture, and they're having one day in the year where they can actually embrace their culture, you know, I wouldn't consider it a far-right event at all.
No, absolutely. And I met so many nice people. I actually wanted Lisa, Ian, Caroline. Those are 3 people I promised that I would remember.
Yeah.
So a shout out to them. Now, what Keir Starmer, the people he didn't mention in his sort of speech about hate marches was the Nakba March. Now, I went to synagogue before I went later on. So I went to synagogue. My synagogue is very close to where the march... Well, when I came out the tube, I was... Actually, let's have a look. I've got some footage here of me coming out the tube, walking to my synagogue.
It's me coming out of the tube, going to synagogue.
So, I don't know if people at home could hear that, but as soon as I came out there, it was, you know, hundreds or thousands of people and chants immediately of, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Now, Jews consider that a call to basically throw Jews into the sea. That's how it's used in its original Arabic. So that is arguably hateful. There was also some footage. We've had lots of footage from that particular march, but let's have another clip. This is me when I came out of synagogue and walked back to the tube. The march was going on properly, and I was standing there, and it was, you know, people like what you just heard, people calling me Nazi scum, people calling me a baby killer, screaming in my face. It was insane. And what I will say is it was not a march of peace. And if anything, it was a march of hate. There was extreme anger there, extreme vitriol aimed towards Israel, aimed toward the world's only Jewish state. Now, you've covered these marches as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. I mean, obviously, I'm sympathetic to every issue. So when I first saw what was happening in Palestine, obviously my heart broke, and I decided to actually go to a pro-Palestine march to see for myself what it was about. I also went with my Union Jack because I can, this is Britain, and I was immediately attacked. I was meant to be there for 1 hour, and I lasted literally 4 minutes. They dragged me around like a rag doll, and I just saw the absolute hypocrisy of this movement. And the hypocrisy is they're sitting here and saying that they want to end violence, whilst at the same time committing violence towards someone like myself, simply for asking them why they were protesting. When I say these people threw around my camera, they dragged me around, they even started to attack my cameraman. I mean, people who really want peace would not act like that. And not only that, my question to the pro-Palestine people is, if you want to help Palestine, you should actually just go to Palestine. Like, I'm not being funny. I'm so sick and tired of Britain becoming the country that has to be responsible for every issue in the world. When are they going to hold Hamas responsible? When are they going to hold the Palestinians responsible or Israel responsible? Like, let them sort out that issue and let us in the UK sort out our own issues. I'm actually sick and tired of it.
No, to be honest, I'm sick and tired of it myself. Really? But I don't particularly enjoy having to, you know, go to synagogue and make my way through all of those groups of people. Now, there were some people there who probably would say, look, I was there for peace. What I didn't see was anyone's a sign saying two-state solution. We want the two-state, or anybody condemning, as you say, condemning Hamas. And I didn't see any Union Jacks either. So it's interesting that just having a Union Jack is triggering for somebody. So you could also argue it's not actually really about Palestine at all. It's just a sort of an anti-Western march.
And that's the saddest thing about it, is that what they are doing is not about Palestine. What's actually going on in Palestine is tragic. War is tragic. Whether it's Israelis dying or Palestinians dying, it's always going to be tragic. But what you see is these people, they are turning this into a business. They're selling badges, they're selling bags, they're attacking people on the streets. Obviously, we saw the Green Party using it for votes. They've turned something tragic, which is a war, and they've turned it into a business for votes and obviously to push their socialism and their anti-Western agenda. Yeah, and it's quite disgusting in my
Well,
eyes.
speaking of businesses, I just want to say thank you very much. Please check out Based and Bougie on YouTube, various clips. I very much enjoy what you do. Keep on doing it. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Big round of applause. Well, joining me now, they've just watched all of that, is the human rights lawyer, Shoaib Khan. Shoaib, welcome to the show. Now, you yourself, I don't believe, attended either of those marches, but what was your impression from clips that you might have seen?
Yeah, no, I haven't attended any of those. But I think, I mean, obviously you said the clips and what we've heard generally, what people have said, social media, or generally what the police have been saying. So firstly, I mean, I think if we just look at it factually, there have been more arrests. Obviously, when someone is arrested, we don't know what they've committed. It's just a suspect. But there were more arrests at the UTK rally than the other one anyway. But secondly, I mean, I know you keep saying, you know, we shouldn't be calling it far right and there's no hate, but we have to look at, and obviously in the previous speakers saying that, you know, herself, many others I'm sure like her have attended these rallies. But the point is, you know, we're talking about the people at the, you know, in the background. Some of them might be Jewish, some of them might be Sikh, some of them, you know, from ethnic minorities, but who are the people we actually see on the stage from the world over? Look at the people we collect and the people who are addressing them. So firstly, obviously led by the criminal, the convict, Tommy Robinson. I mean, you know, being deported from, you know, being an illegal immigrant, you know, just look at the sort of criminal convictions he has, and he's the one leading the movement. So I think if that's the kind of leader you have, and then you say, no, the rest of us are all peaceful patriots, we're just gathering under him and under his flag to show love for our country. I just don't understand that. Of course, you're going to be associated.
You know what we could do, though, is we could actually have another march, and maybe you might lead it, saying, let's unite the kingdom and let's be patriotic and go there with our English flags and our UK flags. Would you be up for that? So if that's your concern.
No, I mean, I don't have any problem. I mean, but what I do have a problem with is, like the previous speaker was saying, this is the only one day in the year that we get to be patriotic. I mean, I don't know, why is that patriotic? The only day we can gather in central London, and then people from all over the world who are going to spout vitriol and hatred. That is. I mean, and we're talking about, obviously, these are two very different rallies, and the point and the purpose of them, even according to their organizers. But according to the organizers, what were all the speeches about at the UTK? All about, I mean, and the interview he gave afterwards, Trump, all about, we need to get rid of Muslims. If I was in here, I would get rid of Muslims. More Muslims need to be... That's all he was talking... How is that...
Well, I heard a few of the speeches, and I've got to be honest, that's not what I heard. But let's just do a bit of sort of let's do a bit of sort of whataboutery here. If that is your concern, then how do you feel about the Nakba march and certainly rhetoric there? People calling, celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, people calling death to the IDF. If you want to follow the rules that you're talking about, fair enough. But then to not be hypocrites, surely we should then call out the Nakba march and the real hate that we saw there as well, if there is as well.
Quite a few points. I mean, the first point to make, that if anyone is opposing a government, a regime, even a group abroad, I think that's very, very different from actually attacking fellow citizens. If we're saying, I love my country, and the whole point is I'm here under the Union Jack, unite the kingdom. Why am I not part of the kingdom? I'm British, I was born here. Why isn't my family? Why aren't my neighbours?
If you wanted. Would you be tempted to go and see what reaction? Because I know Muslims who went yesterday who didn't have anything like the reaction that you're talking about and actually had a very friendly, welcoming day.
But what was the point of it? I mean, when you have people like Katie Hopkins, all the people from America, people who the government had to ban from coming here because, you know, because of their actions and their previous... So I just don't understand what this is about. We have
a lot of people feel frustrated and want to show love and patriotism towards the country that we live in, which I think is fair enough. But look, thank you so much for joining us, Shoaib Khan, and maybe we can go to both marches together next time. Thank you very much for joining us. So next on Free Speech Nation, it's time for some audience questions. But again, big round of applause for Based and Bougie.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
My comedian guests this evening are Cressida Wetton and Stephen Allen. Look at them, there they are. How are you now, Steve? How long have you been in porn?
As a contributor or a viewer?
Well, I know you started
Different
as a
question.
fan.
Yeah, everyone is a passionate amateur.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
What do you think of his moustache there, Cressida?
I think it goes with the eyebrow. I think that's a complete look.
It's the look I'm going for, and it's the look I'm achieving. Thank you.
Fair enough. Fair enough. How are you doing, Cressida? You all right?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
Well, it's lovely to see you. Well, look, let's get on with
Don't talk about her porn career, do you? I feel... How outed am I?
I didn't want to mention her moustache. Now, let's go on. Let's get some audience questions. Our first one's from Jeff.
Hi, Josh. Was the BBC captured by trans activists?
Yes, was the BBC captured by trans activists? Now, this comes as the former director of BBC News, Fran Unsworth, said she had been bullied out of the role by gender ideologues employed by the corporation. Speaking out for the first time since leaving the corporation, Miss Unsworth said, "I would actually say it drove me out, just dealing with the progressive editorial issues and the bullying around them all. It was incredibly difficult." So, I think this is... I don't know if you've been sort of following this, but there was obviously a report that came out last year that also argued about how trans ideology kind of has been pushed by the BBC. What do you think about now that an ex-head of news has come out and said...
Well, hopefully it's a turn in the right direction, and maybe the new Director General, who's coming from Google, isn't he, will sort things out even more.
Yeah, no, well, now this was based, Cressida, on an unheard piece by Rob Hurley, who also used to work at the BBC. It's a very good piece. This is kind of, for people who obviously watch this show and fans of the channel, we all know what's gone on, but it is interesting to hear it kind of coming from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Well, what has gone on is we've spent several years blaming the people in the BBC for this, and now we find out that one of the bosses felt bullied the whole time. It's like, whose fault is it then? It's interesting that she didn't sort it out or couldn't, I don't know which. But even Rob Hurley said, you know, she wasn't able to... I felt like there was a little bit of victim blaming going on there. Like, well, what did she do about it? Yeah. And I guess it just got away with itself, and then she couldn't stop it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, now we know that this... I mean, look, we knew it because of the output, and it's nice to have it admitted. But you're right. I think Cressida is saying that, yeah, it's correct, is that the buck really should have stopped with her. If the news organisation had been part of it, and she also talks about entertainment and drama, certainly her, but she was responsible. She's the one, surely, who could have stepped in there and said, actually, you know what, we're not doing our job and presenting things impartially.
Definitely, if her argument is, it was so bad I felt I had to leave, then actually on the way out, do a good thing. If you fear that the next action you take might mean you get fired, you were just about to quit anyway. You had nothing else to lose. You could have rolled the dice on this one. But I kind of understand the mechanism that she's talking about. The be kind culture seems nice when you look at the title, but when you let other people decide what is and isn't kind, you're controlled.
Yeah, I agree. The two most dangerous words of this society are "be kind," and yeah, I think you're right. I think when she sort of said her resignation, it's like, I'm reforming you, that I'm going to quit, and also there are only two sexes. Now, BBC spokesperson said BBC News has taken a number of actions relating to our reporting of sex and gender, including updating the new style guide and sharing new guidance, making our social affairs editor responsible for this coverage. We continue to review our coverage to reflect developments such as the Supreme Court ruling. The BBC's Director of News Content, Richard Burgess, also said last November that the broadcaster had made mistakes in its coverage of transgender issues. Well, our next question is from Jonathan.
Has a councillor been silenced for asking questions about who's being housed in their area?
Yes, so has a councillor been silenced for asking questions on who's been housed in their area? So an independent councillor from Sandhurst, John Edwards, claims he has been punished for inquiring into the Afghan resettlement hotel scheme in Bracknell. Now, last year, the council confirmed that a hotel in Bracknell was being used to house people who had arrived from Afghanistan on UK government schemes. They say this was home to fewer than 200 Afghans in family groups as part of the government scheme to support Afghans fleeing Taliban, some of which have served in the UK Armed Forces. But this subsequently launched a year-long investigation into him, costing taxpayers up to £15,000. So, should councillors be penalised for asking questions? He's like a sort of whistleblower. Basically, first of all, everything he said was already in the public domain. And
he wasn't even allowed to get his mouth on the whistle, was he? I mean, he was asking questions. So...
And he's been found innocent as well, hasn't he, Steve? So they paid $15,000 to investigate him. He was found innocent, and now they're sort of doing a new charge on him. And the process is the punishment.
Yeah, and the last process didn't work. So we've got a new process. We think this process might work, and if this doesn't work, who knows where it stops. The point of asking questions is that the answer can be no. Do you remember that no question should be invalid, because then you have a discussion. And I really worry when you get any level of government saying we don't trust people with information. I know the information was public domain. What they didn't like was someone scooping it together and presenting it. They need to remember who they work for. Like, the governments don't work... They're not in charge of it. I know they're technically in charge, but they work for us. If we want access to information, they should trust us with information. It's our information.
Absolutely, and this was someone who was doing his job as a councillor. That's the whole thing. Now, his case is being supported by the Free Speech Union. Obviously, you support them, you can support his case. Go and check it out online. Now, our next question is from James.
Evening, Josh.
Hey.
Should an Indian student who has been voted as a member of Scottish Parliament by the Green Party, should they be allowed to decide whether the UK pays reparations to Palestine or not?
Yeah, so this Indian student, he's turned Green Party MSP, decide whether we pay reparations to Palestine. So, this is a trans Indian student. He was elected to... okay.
They prefer they.
Was it they? Was it they?
Yes,
okay.
they.
He was elected to Hollywood, and he wants Scottish taxpayers to fund reparations to Palestinians, blaming what he calls their complicity in the occupation of the territory. Now, this is he describes himself as a queer Tamil immigrant. He's not a British citizen. He's over here on a student visa. Yeah. He's Indian. And now he's getting £77,000 a year or something.
Students, eh?
Yeah.
You really add to that.
At least he's trying to get a job.
Well, I was thinking, finally, a student who's getting up in the morning and is busy. I was quite impressed. Don't blame the player, blame the game, you know? He's aced it.
Yeah, but he has aced it. But then he's now deciding, you guys should give money, taxpayers' money.
Which is so annoying, isn't it? It's like when somebody's doing a sponsored something for something you don't care about and they're trying to get money out of you. And he's doing that on a massive scale, saying this country owes that country a load of money.
Yeah, for its complicity as well, not even for doing the thing. Yeah. Blaming Scotland, which, no offence to Scotland, but numbers-wise, it's very much smaller than the rest of the United Kingdom, will have to pay reparations, which obviously we'd pay it through the Barnett formula. I know how this goes. Somehow I'd still end up paying for it. But this conversation's going to go on. I'll tell you who I feel sorry for. Genuine Green voters who feel worried about the planet and stuff. They must be like, I thought I was, the green thing. I thought we were trying to recycle more, and it turns out now we just hate the West. What?
Do they exist, those green voters?
Well, yeah, I think both of them are coming to terms with it.
Yeah, they're not allowed anymore.
Fair enough. Well, look, our final question for the moment is from Anton.
Is Tony Blair responsible for our low birth rate?
Is Tony Blair responsible for our low birth rate? So in the year to 2024, the fertility rate fell to the lowest figure since records began in 1938, with just 1.41 children per woman, according to the Office for National Statistics. So this is about changing attitudes. The rising house price and costly childcare are blamed, but actually it might be because a lot of people went to university under Tony Blair's target of 50% of the population. So You've been to university.
Yeah.
You've got 1.41 children.
Yeah, give or take. As a rounding error, yeah.
And, I mean, this is like one of those unintended consequences. First of all, you've got a whole generations of people now in debt, massively, working at McDonald's. Talking about myself. And they're not going to have kids.
Yeah, I mean, so the point is it Tony Blair's fault that we've got a low birth rate. He's prevented me from getting aroused sometimes. Just even thinking about his face. Sometimes quite useful if you need to... But anyway,
you need to last a bit longer.
Yeah, I don't want to spell the whole thing out. But yeah, no, it was a dumb plan. 50% of people need to go to university. Why? The whole point of university was meant to be an elite education thing. You don't need to waste 3 years of everyone's life. And then the little kicker was, and also we'll charge you for it. And I think that the whole article doesn't go as heavy on the debt. I think putting that many people in debt, for those of us who did think, am I financially ready to have kids? You're not going to be if you're 50 grand in debt. So that's another reason why it slowed us all down. An absolute waste of time. All it did, best case scenario, was fudge the unemployment figures.
Yeah, well, Crystal, what do you think about this?
Well, I'm sure money's a part of it, but in addition to that, if you're going to university and learning terrible Marxist things, and, it's not fashionable to have kids, and partly that's passed on in university, right? So Camille Parlier's got this idea that women should have their kids and then go to university. And, of course, it would completely change the atmosphere, wouldn't it? I mean, the gender stuff wouldn't have happened for a start if there were more people kind of tied to biology and having kids and stuff. So I guess that is,
you're right, that is a fantastic idea. And where I went to university, there were a lot of mature students. And absolutely, they were the ones who were just totally calling out all of this stuff that was being sort of indoctrinated on us because they've got real life experience. Interesting. All right, next on Free Speech Nation, has modern LGBTQ plus activism failed its community? I'll be joined by famous transsexual Buck Angel. That is coming up next in 2 minutes.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, plenty of settled weather over the coming days for much of Europe as generally high pressure builds. Sunny spells across the Canaries through the rest of the weekend into Monday. On the sunny side and dry across much of Spain and Portugal. Showers, though, some of these heavy across France, northern Italy, but drier further south and across into Greece and Turkey as well. Temperatures rising 25, 26 Celsius. Plenty of sunshine to come over the coming days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We still have an unsettled start to the week. Showers, longer spells of rain moving through before it gradually turns warmer later on in the week. So low pressure is continuing to dominate, centre of the low across northern parts of Scotland. Westerly winds and frontal systems bringing a focus for showers. So showers really across the board as we go through this evening, mixed with clear spells. Some longer spells of rain coming through across Northern Ireland, pushing its way eastwards into northwestern parts of England, into Wales and the southwest of England. Some of that rain could turn heavy at times. Either side we will have clear spells. Temperatures falling away across northern parts of Scotland, perhaps with a touch of frost and some mist and fog patches here too. But a brighter start than recent days, especially across the north of Scotland, more in the way of sunshine across the south of Scotland. As we start Monday morning, there will be some showery outbreaks of rain. A brighter picture across Northern Ireland, a few showers in the mix, but more longer spells of rain now into the Midlands, into the southwest of England. A bright and dry start across the south and east. That band of rain will start breaking up as we go into the afternoon, and then widely showers breaking out. There will be sunny spells, showers. Some of these could be on the heavy side, but turning drier across Northern Ireland. Hazy sunshine as we go into the afternoon and some brisk winds. So hopefully feeling a little bit more pleasant across Northern Ireland. Highs here of 14 degrees. Across the south and east, a bit more cloud, 15 or 16 degrees. Then it's widely wet and windy as we start Tuesday morning. A band of rain pushing its way north and eastwards, accompanied by some brisk southwesterly winds. Behind that, it is a case of sunny spells and a scattering of showers. That theme continues as we go into Wednesday, but temperatures are on the rise by later on in the week.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain,
with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. This week, the Cambridge Union held a topical debate. This House believes modern LGBTQ+ activism fails its community, while one person who gave a stirring first-hand testimony was the American educator Buck Angel, who spoke candidly about his experience with gender transition. So, Buck, welcome to the show. So I saw your speech. It was very powerful. We were also just mentioning Maeve. She gave a very powerful speech as well. But what made you sort of propelled to come over here and talk about this particular issue?
Well, first, thanks for having me. It's a really important discussion. They reached out to me. Cambridge reached out and asked if I would come and be part of this debate. And I was like, what? Of course I will. Because the House question was very important to me as an older transsexual person. And I think the community has failed itself on many levels.
Do you think one thing that you talked about was how the TQIA MMW plus should be kind of separated from the LGB part, because that's the bit that's kind of almost harming the LGB side of things?
Well, not kind of. It actually is harming. And so, again, I come from I'm 63. I fought for LGBT rights for 40-something years. And LGBT rights we have them. They're there. People don't necessarily care about gay people in a sense where they're angry at them or want to kill them. Then the trans queer has a different agenda. And also, it's different than a transsexual person. That's why I think it's sort of LGBT. As a transsexual person, you want to sort of blend into the world. I want to be a part of the world. I don't even want people to know I'm transsexual. The TQIA+++, it's more of an ideology and it's more of an identity. I don't identify as trans. I identify as a man, though I'm not a man. So do you see the difference in the sort of, my goal is to blend into the world. Their goal is to create sort of disruption on some level in the world.
Okay, yeah, you could, ideology versus, well, in the LGB, I guess it's the internalized. I mean, it's an intrinsic characteristic. Sexuality.
Well, sexuality and gender are two different things, right? But for me, I have something called gender dysphoria, which is actually a mental disorder where a lot of people push back on me with a bad thing, right? It's not normal for a man to want to be a woman or a woman. And once you sort of put your head around that and 34 years of experience of transitioning, it's hugely powerful to accept your biology and know I never changed my sex. I just became my appearance of a man, and I walk the world. People have no issues with me whatsoever. It's the TQIA that wants to cause sort of this disruption in the world and make people believe things that are not true.
I think that's it's like the compelled speech, the forced pronouns.
Yes.
I used, I called you earlier she or her. You don't particularly mind which pronoun?
Nope.
See, it's interesting no one wants to upset anybody else. We've sort of talked about this, like the be kind thing.
Yes.
But I personally, after sort of saying that I've had to sort of go, well, wait a minute, this kind of all started with the use of language.
Yes.
And the manipulation of language. And I think that there are people now who just go, I'm just going to use the biological pronouns.
Of course. And so, of course I want you to call me he, right? But if we were out somewhere at a pub and you kept saying she, people are going to think you're crazy. But that doesn't hurt my feelings, right? Because my feelings are not as important as the reality of it. So that's why if you call me she, well, on some level, I am a she. I'm a female. I did not change my sex. And that is an important distinction between a transsexual person who acknowledges this situation and the trans, queer, non-binary identity, forcing people to call trans women 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 and going in women's spaces was never, ever part of the transsexual space, okay? Never. We never did trans women or trans men want to disrupt your space. We're guests. We are guests in your space, and we wanted to be sort of let in as a way that said, you respect us and we respect you, and there's never going to be that issue. That's not what's happening.
Well, this is it. LGBT rights are about achieving same rights, ability to marry. That doesn't have any impact on anybody else. It's not demanding anything from anybody else here. As a biological woman, I guess you've seen the impact on also women. Maeve is not LGBT, she's a woman.
Yes.
Yet she was talked very powerfully about the negative impact of the TQIA+ on women's spaces in particular.
And that's why her speech was so powerful, because many people are not willing to say that, right? But now women are fed up. They're not going to be okay with it, and that's why I understand why they want me to call myself a female, because these people made us believe that you can magically change your sex, and children are transgender. You know, once they started telling kids that they can change their sex, I tapped out. I'm like, no, now you're telling children a lie, because even if you do this to a child and they maybe become 20 and 30 years old, they're going to come to a understanding that they never change their sex, right? And the medications they are giving these children are irreversible. I don't care what if you do your research, and we have a person who's called Helen Weberly who pushes, and she was at the debate, and she was saying these things that are actually a lie.
Let's show a little clip. This is not from Helen, but from Sammy MacDonald, who was one of the opposing speakers.
Any knowledge of history that this building has shown shows that when progress happens, backlash mounts. And that progress is very fragile. And that progress will be reversed unless we stand up to those who peddle hatred and do not blame those who are the victims of that hatred for what has been perpetrated upon them.
Well, that's interesting there, because he talked about it doesn't really make much sense, but he's talking about progress. Now, arguably, women losing their rights, that's the opposite of progress, isn't it?
Thank you. Thank you. So whose rights are more important here, right? So women are a much bigger population of the world than trans women. And I'm going to say it again, and somebody might not like it. Trans women are not women. They are trans women. They are a subset of men. I am a subset of women. And so once you we're actually having a normal conversation that on some level outside in the world out there, people will get upset about that. That is indoctrination to sort of skirt reality in order to not hurt other people's feelings.
And of course, through that, we have seen massive ramifications for our society as pushback. We have over here, there was I believe in the King's speech, which is basically what the government's going to be doing, they're talking about this. Have you heard about the conversion bill? So the idea is that if you are presenting and you're saying, I am of the different, I believe I am of the opposite sex, it would be, they're saying that if you're a therapist, you have to affirm.
That's right.
And that's a real danger if that gets criminalised, isn't it?
Oh, my God. First off, that's not conversion therapy, OK? Those are two different... They co-opted that term from the gay community, where therapists actually used to tell gay people, no, you're not gay, and trying to make them straight. That's why I'm telling you those are two different things. No therapist is telling a child what the therapy is supposed to do. This is the last choice. This should never be the first choice. You should try to help children move through the world so they don't have to medicalize themselves. It is not easy to walk the world this way. They're making it seem like this is easy and it's so euphoric and trans thing. It's not. So when you're telling a 10-year-old that they can be a boy when they're a girl, you are not only lying to that child, but you're not helping that child deal with this mental thing that's happening in their brain.
Absolutely. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us. Also, I want to say, when I'm 63, I hope I look as good as you. Big round of applause, please, for Angel. Next on Free Speech Nation, the COVID inquiry is under fire after seemingly backing the government's monitoring of lockdown critics during the pandemic. You don't want to miss that. See you in 2 minutes.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel. the fairest place on earth. The famous words of William Wordsworth to describe his home of Grasmere in the Lake District, which has just been named by TripAdvisor as the UK's favourite holiday hotspots for this summer.
Grasmere is really, as you can see, a beautiful place. It's surrounded by fantastic fells or hills, by a lake. It's a very nice village to visit. It's got plenty of shops. It's got famous Grasmere gingerbread. It's got a beautiful 12th century church. It's just a really nice place to visit and unwind and relax and enjoy.
With Grasmere taking the top spot, fourth place went just a few miles down the road to tourist hotspot Bowness on Windermere, with other popular places in Cumbria such as Ambleside, Keswick and Derwent sure to see people flocking in this summer. However, for one nature festival taking place on the edge of the county this weekend, they recently had to put a warning out to some guests who may have been planning to arrive somewhat underdressed for the occasion. That's right, the age-old mix-up between nature and au naturel has forced the festival to ask any nudists to stay at home. But how many of us would be at risk of getting confused? Are you able to tell me the difference between a naturist and a naturalist?
No.
No, sorry.
No. A naturist is somebody who likes nature and the outdoors, and a naturalist is somebody who doesn't wear clothes.
That's actually the other way around.
You see?
Clearly the terms are easy to confuse, but fortunately any nudists who were planning on attending have been offered a full refund.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. The COVID inquiry is under fire after backing the government's monitoring of lockdown critics during the pandemic. Now, campaigners say ministers use a counter-disinformation unit, the CDU, to track social media posts questioning school closures, masks and lockdown policies. Many of those criticisms that turned out to be very valid. Well, I'm now joined by the author, journalist and founder of Us For Them, Molly Kingsley. Molly, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on tonight.
So, Molly, you are one of those outspoken critics. You even created an organisation, particularly around school closures, right?
Yes, that's right. I mean, we founded an organisation, Us For Them, in May 2020, and at the time, actually, we thought it was going to be a 2 or 3 week campaign, get schools open, you know, job done, and we're still going some 6 years. 6 years later, and a lot of our current work is still on the fallout from the pandemic, and nothing more so actually than the impact of censorship and the, you know, what we now know about the counter disinformation unit's operations.
Yeah, well, this is it. So the COVID inquiry has been looking into their behaviour. You're a private citizen. You're raising, as it turns out, legitimate concerns. Children have been massively impacted because of the decisions of the government at the time. And yet the COVID inquiry is kind of going, no, that's totally fine and normal behaviour.
Basically, yes. I mean, you know, if you've been following the COVID inquiry so far, it will come as no surprise to learn that they have effectively just whitewashed this whole issue. They have stopped short of actually expressly endorsing the activities of the counter-disinformation unit, although they do kind of implicitly endorse it. They're quite careful in the language they use, and I've got this bit of the report in front of me, and I mean, they say very expressly in principle there was nothing unlawful or inappropriate in the government monitoring publicly available information. They imply it was lawful, necessary and proportionate. And I'm afraid that just does not square with actually the receipts. And many of us have the receipts of the information that was monitored and that was then either suppressed or in some cases taken down altogether. And to say that this is proportionate, and I can give you a few examples if you want, but it is very clear to those of us involved that this narrative control exercise went beyond anything that normal people would consider mis or disinformation.
So what would happen was this counter disinformation unit, they would highlight posts of people critical of the government, and they would then take that to YouTube and what was X, Twitter, and then they would and it seems like the inquiry is saying, well, that was okay to do that, and we didn't have any impact after that point, but it did silence people, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what they did. And again, what the inquiry seems to be saying, in fact, not what they seem to be saying, what they have said is, but the decision as to whether or not to ultimately take down this content was entirely up to the social media companies. So, nothing to do with the UK government. UK government unit just flagged it and then that was it. Now, we know that's not true, and actually that's contradicted in various testimony given by the head of the CDU. So we know that 90% of content flagged by this Cabinet Office unit was taken down. And of course, we know, because we've had people like Mark Zuckerberg since come on and say, we think Facebook censored too much. We think we took down information that should have stayed up. And the really, really interesting thing here, and again, something that's been completely ducked by our inquiry, is since the inception of the inquiry, of course, we've had a number of US reports and hearings. So we've had the US Senate, we've had the US Congress, and their reports, particularly on the Biden era's censorship during the pandemic, have been absolutely eviscerating. So, they've said the results were devastating, and by suppressing, and I'm reading it now, by suppressing free speech and intentionally distorting public debate, ideas and policies were no longer fairly tested and debated on their merits. Now, I could go on and on, but I won't. But there's just this dichotomy between the willful blindness, really, of our own inquiry and what is now coming out of, in particular, the US.
I guess the problem is that we don't learn the lesson. We're going to repeat the same mistakes again and have our freedoms curtailed. I want to say a big round of applause and a big thank you to the author, journalist and founder of Ask for Them, Molly Kingsley. And I also want to say you've got a podcast as well. I know, if you could quickly just tell us what the podcast is called.
Yes, we have. And actually, it's partly to kind of address the issues that the COVID inquiry hasn't addressed and ducked. Ethics is the other big one, ethics and informed consent. It's called Broken Custodians. It's a podcast basically talking about failures in public policy during the pandemic and beyond.
OK, well, look, thank you so much for joining us. Big round of applause, please. A COVID inquiry spokesman said the inquiry examined the CDU's role in tackling COVID-19 vaccine and disinformation and misinformation. It concluded that government monitoring of public social media to identify disinformation trends and flagging potentially harmful content to social media companies was neither unlawful nor inappropriate. And a government spokesperson said the counter-disinformation unit played an important role during the pandemic, helping identify false information that could pose a dangerous risk to UK public health. As acknowledged by the inquiry, the decision to label or otherwise act on online content was only ever taken on social media platforms, not the government. So that's the end of the first hour of Free Speech Nation. Don't go away. We have got some amazing stuff coming up in the next hour. See you in a couple of minutes.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We still have an unsettled start to the week. Showers, longer spells of rain moving through before it gradually turns warmer later on in the week. So low pressure is continuing to dominate the centre of the low across northern parts of Scotland. Westerly winds and frontal systems bringing a focus for showers. So showers really across the board as we go through this evening, mixed with clear spells. Some longer spells of rain coming through across Northern Ireland, pushing its way eastwards into northwestern parts of England, into Wales and the southwest of England. Some of that rain could turn heavy at times. Either side we will have clear spells. Temperatures falling away across northern parts of Scotland, perhaps with a touch of frost and some mist and fog patches here too. But a brighter start than recent days, especially across the north of Scotland, more in the way of sunshine across the south of Scotland. As we start Monday morning, there will be some showery outbreaks of rain. A brighter picture across Northern Ireland. A few showers in the mix, but more longer spells of rain now into the Midlands, into the southwest of England. A bright and dry start across the south and east. That band of rain will start breaking up as we go into the afternoon, and then widely showers breaking out. There will be sunny spells, showers. Some of these could be on the heavy side, but turning drier across Northern Ireland. Hazy sunshine as we go into the afternoon, and some brisk winds. So hopefully feeling a little bit more pleasant across Northern Ireland. Highs here of 14 degrees. Across the south and east, a bit more cloud, 15 or 16 degrees. Then it's widely wet and windy as we start Tuesday morning. A band of rain pushing its way north and eastwards, accompanied by some brisk southwesterly winds. Behind that, it is a case of sunny spells and a scattering of showers. That theme continues as we go into Wednesday, but temperatures are on the rise by later on in the week.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You could spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
We have plenty more still to come on Free Speech Nation this evening.
It's me coming out of the tube, going to synagogue.
So you might have heard there is chants of From the River to the Sea continue to fill the capital with pro-Palestine campaigners. A shocking 300-page report detailing the savage sexual violence of October 7th from Hamas has been released. But where is the uproar? I'll put it to the former international spokesperson for the IDF. Plus,
nations depend on rules, fair rules.
Sometimes they're written down, often they're not. But either way, they give shape to our values. Without them, we risk becoming an island of strangers, not a nation that walks forward together.
He has incredible charisma. Was the PM right to go back on dubbing us an island of strangers? One man that thinks so will join us with his new book exploring diversity, decline and the free speech in crisis in Britain. And I'll tell you why Australia has been branded laughingstock of the world after a trans woman wins £10,000 for being banned from a girls-only app. The founder of the app, Sal Grover, who's an absolute hero, will be joining us, so don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss that. But first, we're going to get a news update from Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Josh. Good evening to you. It's 8:01. Our top stories. The Culture Secretary has challenged Wes Streeting's remarks about rejoining the EU in an apparent rift over the issue at the top of the Labour Party. Lisa Nandy says her former cabinet colleague risks restarting Brexit wars with his call to rejoin the bloc, describing his position as odd as Europe looks set to become an issue in any future leadership contest. Andy Burnham says there may be a long-term case for rejoining the European Union, but insists he won't be campaigning on that issue in the upcoming by-election in Makerfield, a Brexit voting constituency. Ms Nandy says winning the by-election will be tough, and a debate about the EU is not what the country wants.
I think it is a bit odd to respond to the absolute roar of noise that we heard last Thursday. We got an absolute kicking at the polls, and it hurt, and it still hurts. And to respond to that with re-entering the European Union seems to me to be a fundamental misreading of what people are asking us for.
Meanwhile, the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch accused Labour of putting a leadership contest ahead of the national interest.
Labour are now 100% focused on themselves and not on the country. Of course, Andy Burnham is doing this to challenge Keir Starmer. Why else has someone given up their seat specifically for this purpose? And all the while, I tell you what Labour are talking about. They're not talking about the economy. You look at the spike, in gilt yields in the market. They're not talking about bringing down welfare. They're not talking about defence. This is just their own personal psychodrama.
The Met Police say 43 arrests were made during two rival protests in London yesterday. 20 people detained were attending the Unite the Kingdom protest, including 9 for alleged hate crimes. 12 people were arrested at the pro-Palestinian march, including 2 for alleged hate crimes, with a further 11 arrests not said to be linked to either group. The Met says around 60,000 people attended yesterday's demonstration. Last year's event drew an estimated 150,000. Police Scotland says 2 officers were seriously injured by violence in Glasgow city centre after Celtic's Premiership win against Hearts. Fans took to the streets to celebrate the final day decider, which Celtic won. The force said they were targeted when they went into the crowd to assist with a medical emergency. Bottles and other missiles were thrown. 14 arrests were made, and police say more will follow. An outbreak of
level of violence disorder that we saw and the targeting of our officers.
An outbreak of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Uganda has been declared a public health emergency of international concern. The WHO says more than 300 suspected cases and 88 deaths have been reported, the majority in the DRC. But it adds the outbreak could potentially be much larger than current assessments, with significant risk of local and regional spread. There's currently no vaccine for this strain of the deadly virus, which is thought to have a fatality rate of 50%. The government's looking into a potential bid for the north of England to host the Olympic and Paralympic Games in the 2040s. It's part of an ambition to drive regeneration in towns and cities through sport. Now, if successful, it would be the first time the Olympics were staged in Britain since London 2012. And the Scottish rugby great Scott Hastings has died at the age of 61. The British and Irish Lions centre won 65 caps in an 11-year Test career that began in 1986. He was part of the most recent Scotland team to win the Grand Slam in 1990 alongside his brother Gavin. Hastings announced in 2022 he'd been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which could not be cured. A statement released by his son Corey and daughter Kerry Ann said Scott passed away peacefully surrounded by his family this morning. which also marked his late wife Jenny's birthday. You're up to date with the headlines. Now it is back to Free Speech Nation.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. Now, a new 300-page report documenting savage sexual crimes carried out by Hamas on October 7th and afterwards has been released, documenting maimings, torture and sexual violence. The Civil Commission's report, which has been backed by former US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, has opened up criticism as to why more feminist and campaign groups are not more outraged by the crimes committed. Now, I'm warning you that some of this content may be very distressing for viewers. So, please welcome to the show to discuss this report is the Senior Fellow at the FDD and former IDF spokesperson, Jonathan Conricus. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This report came out this week. It's very, very hard to read it.
It's very hard to read, and especially having known and seen a lot of the evidence and the testimonials from survivors. Me personally, having seen the remains of Israelis burned, raped and mutilated with my own eyes, it is indeed very difficult, and it adds another layer of difficulty and suffering that this is needed, that there is a need for the State of Israel and for the victims to actually compile this massive dossier of testimony, forensic evidence, of lots of other evidence and videos and pictures that they've gone through in order to compile what we hope will be a compelling argument, which is the case of this is what Hamas did, and why do the Jews have to first be not believed and have to come and prove that there was actually mass and systemic rape and sexual abuse by Hamas on October the 7th, but also afterwards, because we have lots of testimonials of Israeli hostages who were kept in the dungeons of Gaza by Hamas terrorists and by Gazan civilians, sometimes the same ones, who also underwent very significant sexual abuse. And it's sad, to see that there are some people around the world, I believe as a father to a daughter that you should believe a woman if she says that she has been attacked and abused or offended. Then the first response would be, yes, I believe. Now let's get to the facts and let's support and let's get to the bottom of the matter. Israeli women on October 8th, those who survived, they woke up to the very brutal reality that no, we don't believe you because you're Israeli women, and we question everything you say. Show us the evidence, show us the DNA, show us forensics, otherwise we won't believe you, and otherwise, very importantly, there will be no sympathy and no compassion.
Well, this is it. I think it was 10,000 photos and more than 400 interviews.
Yes.
And the reaction from the day after was just this kind of, as these reports started coming out, as you say. And the crazy thing is that some of this was coming from like feminist organisations. People, believe all women, and the same groups were saying, well, no, that we don't have any evidence. We got so-called feminist, people like Owen Jones saying, watching footage. Well, I didn't see any direct actual footage of it happen. Well, that's because that footage didn't contain it deliberately to
one very basic issue is that most of the victims are sexually abused by Hamas and by ordinary Arabs from Gaza, they're simply not here to tell their story. They were murdered. And the only thing that you have left as evidence are their mutilated bodies. Some of them, almost all of them, with very clear and specific mutilation of their private organs and things that are very clear in terms of what the attackers were doing. But this, sadly, it isn't new. Israeli women have been fighting this fight, and there's been commission after commission and effort after effort of Israeli women to reach out to their sisters around the world and to say, please come and join us. This is a fight of free, liberal women that were assaulted by terrorists. And yes, I think they think that they are worthy of support and belief. But time and time again, whether it's institutions like UN Women, which categorically failed to stand up to the right side of Israeli women that were attacked by Hamas, or other NGOs, high-profile people, celebrities, influencers, who many of them, they had this option to make, and they made a conscious choice not to believe Israeli women and to take sides with the aggressor. And that makes it very sad. And of course, it teaches other terrorists around the world that if they just pick the right target, they can get sympathy and they can get away with their crime.
I mean, some of the things that are the incidents that are talked about in this report, you have family members forced to, on pain of death, to perform sexual acts with each other.
Even children.
Even children, yeah. I mean, it's the mutilation of bodies, necrophilia, and the interviews that we've seen before from captured Hamas operatives make it clear, and also paperwork, that this was actually part of the plan.
So the late leader of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, we have a handwritten document by him where it says very clearly that one of the effects that Hamas wants to achieve is to scare, to terrorize, but also to humiliate Israelis and Jews to the greatest extent possible, to do it live and to broadcast it live to the world via social media networks so that other Arabs, other enemies of Israel can see it and feel inspired by it. So it's a double effort here. And that's why Hamas, almost all of the Hamas terrorists who came in, they had GoPro cameras mounted on their heads. That's why they took phones of victims and live-streamed executions. They didn't live-stream so much sexual abuse, I'll say that to be correct, but they did live-stream executions. I know a family in Tel Aviv who woke up on the morning by their grandmother live streaming on Facebook and wondering why on earth is grandmother live streaming, and then they see grandmother as she's being executed. And this was part of Hamas's plan. It wasn't, a freak incident. This was systemic. These Hamas terrorists, they were given the equipment, they were also given the order to kill, to maim, and to dehumanize, degrade, and humiliate to the greatest extent possible so that the flood of Al-Aqsa, which is how Hamas called the program, would actually go deeper and wider, and more people would join in it.
And you could argue the humiliation continues with the necessity of a report like this having to go into such detail to just try to get some kind of justice and recognition for the victims. Now, the day before
in many ways, in that sense, Western media continues to do Hamas's bidding. And it started on, it didn't start on October 7, way before that. And I, as an IDF spokesperson, was on the front line of trying to combat that. But definitely on October 7, we could see that many parts of Western media chose sides with Hamas. They chose the Hamas narrative, not the Palestinian narrative. The Hamas narrative, and they amplified it, and some organizations haven't changed.
Well, they're still doing it, because the day before this report came out this week, the New York Times published an opinion piece, which is now being sort of said that it's actual reportage, but it's very interesting that they put it out as opinion, which talks about a sexual abuse for Palestinian prisoners, talking about dogs.
It is horrible that we have to say it.
Dogs sexually abusing Palestinian prisoners, which is physically impossible. And there's been a huge amount of pushback. Now, I believe even to the point where the Israeli government have stepped in to deal with this, to sue the New York Times.
So let's put things straight here. The Israeli government reached out to a lot of international media outlets, including the New York Times, and offered them an exclusive look into the information in the commission. And they said, if you do an exclusive and if you report it big, we will give you ahead of everybody else, and here's a peek sneak. New York Times got an invitation to that. They knew that Israel was going to release this information, and I believe that the timing of Nicholas Kristof's opinion piece against Israel, which alleges these horrible crimes, including dogs raping detainees, wasn't a coincidence, and it was designed in order to take the sting out of the Israeli report, which came out just the day after. And I'm actually very happy that the New York Times did it. I am very happy that the New York Times, its editorial board and decision makers, are sticking to their guns, and they've already issued 2 clarifications where they stand by Kristof, his journalistic standards, and what he writes, even though experts from all around the world, people with decades of experience with handling dogs, say very clearly this is a physical impossibility. You cannot get a dog to do what Christoph claims based on a Hamas or a Palestinian in Gaza. You cannot get the dog to do it, yet he persists, and the New York Times persists. Now, I think the State of Israel is doing the right thing here, going on the offensive, finally stopping to just be on the receiving end of New York Times slander and propaganda against Israel, and saying blood libel and incitement to violence and really feeding anti-Semitism. And they're saying, well, we're going to meet you in court. Now, whether Israel eventually wins the case, I think is important, but it's perhaps not the most important thing. I look forward to discovery. I look forward to getting insight to how the decision-making progress was made and who actually, with the authority, approved the peace, even though there were questions about the underlying factual foundations of the peace and why they did so. And I think there's a long, long list of evidence that shows systemic bias and malice and journalistic malpractice at the New York Times, specifically when it comes to the State of Israel.
Well, maybe Israel might also want to look into a little organisation in the UK called the BBC. Whatever. But I also will say about that New York Times report, one of the things that I saw that I couldn't believe it, they're not actually just talking about dogs, they're actually talking about an animal unit that is training lots of animals. So it might also be giraffes and walruses who are being taught how to commit sexual offences. I know it's ridiculous, but that is where we are at now. Well, anyway, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Jonathan, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you. Let's read this out. New York Times has defended the reporting, saying it was extensively fact-checked and says accounts were corroborated with witnesses where possible. They've also said attempts to threaten independent media providing vital information and accountability to the public are unfortunately an increasingly common playbook, but journalists continue to report from Gaza for the Times bravely, sensitively and at personal risk so that readers can see firsthand the consequences of the war. Well, let's see what happens in court then. Well, next on Free Speech Nation, it's time for some more audience questions. There are a few doozies. Did you know that Frankenstein is transphobic? You're going to find out in a couple of minutes. See you in a bit.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
'Cause the
because
failure is-
you're
the failure is-
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. My comedian guests again are Cresta Wetton and Stephen Allen. Let's have another little. Both eyebrows in action there. Well, look, we're going to get some more questions from our audience. Our first one is from Mark.
Yes, good evening. Does where you live in the UK actually affect what you can say?
Well, this is a very interesting story. Does where you live in the UK affect what you can say? Research by Big Brother Watch suggests that arrest rates for speech-related offences vary sharply across UK police forces, creating a postcode lottery for free speech. Cumbria recorded the highest rate of arrest, while legal campaigners warn broad communication laws risk inconsistent enforcement across Britain. So, whereabouts do you live, Mark? If you'd speak into the microphone.
Yeah, I live at Whitechapel, so anything I say here light-hearted, I could not say outside Whitechapel Station without it being light-hearted in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, well, I mean, Cresta, this is interesting, isn't it? That it kind of proves the point that if there isn't, because the idea of what's offensive, who's offensive, if we don't want to have to necessarily blame particular parts of the country or particular police forces, maybe it's because they're interpreting bad written law.
That's exactly what I think. Yeah, I think.
I'd let you say it.
Yeah, this highlights that if you have a woolly law, it's going to get imposed in a woolly way, and you're going to get disparities. I mean, I wouldn't have thought to do it by postcode, but of course, yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? Because we tend to just hear the statistics, how many people have been arrested. This is really interesting.
I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? Cumbria, I think it's you're 8 times more likely to be arrested for breaking these laws than somewhere else in the UK. That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, and in part it's because of the smaller population, I guess, because if you have one incredibly over-vigilant copper, you could really sway the numbers, you know what I mean? Go on a bigger arrest spree and it changes it. But this is the problem with a system where you're trying to work out if other people will be offended. You can always find someone to be offended by something. Do you know what I mean? If you're of the mindset that you think anything will be offensive on someone else's behalf, you go around and arrest them. You know the classic joke about 2 fish in a tank and one says, how do you drive this thing? That's going to trigger someone's PTSD. Do you know what I mean? Oh, no, it takes me back to when I was in tanks. So even that, there is no way that you get away with anything these days.
Well, I've got a joke about an ex-girlfriend who had psoriasis and a lisp, and I genuinely had someone very upset.
I think I know the joke.
After the gig, and she was like, my friend's got psoriasis, and I was like, oh, come on. Anyway, there you go. Come and see me do stand-up. So it also seems, so Cumbria seems bad. I think Essex is one of the places that's not particularly good. They famously, wasn't it Alison Pearson? Was that the Essex police force?
Yeah.
But Hertfordshire's police are the ones who did the guy who sent a few WhatsApp messages complaining about the school, and they sent around six coppers.
Maxie Allen, yes.
Yeah, saying these books are a bit Brexity. Oh, then let's arrest.
Wow, there we go. Well, look, our next question is from Anton.
Was the Frankenstein movie transphobic?
Was the Frankenstein movie... Well, it's just Frankenstein. I think it's Frankenstein... it's not just the movie. I think it's just...
The concept.
The book, everything. Frankenstein is transphobic. So this is... Jane Schoenbrunn said Frankenstein reflects trans monster stereotypes in horror films due to its use of a constructed body. The comments came while promoting a new gender-focused horror film at Cannes, surprisingly. So, yes, are you triggered by Frankenstein?
Where does it end? It's so narcissistic, isn't it? Do they go to IKEA and look at the furniture and think, oh, this is about trans, because you can take the bits of... I mean, what are you talking...
I hadn't thought about that.
Well, think about how many things you can take apart and change the pieces on. I mean, it's just... I don't know where it ends. So I think this is... It's taking offence, isn't it, in a place where it's not actually there.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of... The story came out online, this week, and everybody just was like, "Can't."
Yeah.
Like, it just gets so silly now that everybody was taking the mickey. I think I said, "It's alive. Gender ideology is alive."
Yeah. I mean, the idea of when I read the thing saying like Frankenstein is transphobic, obviously immediately I was like, no, you mean Frankenstein's monster is transphobic because I'm that kind of pedant. But clearly, like, Frankenstein's not trans. All of the body parts are male, right? I've bothered to Google this, and because Frankenstein, Victor I call him, then tries to make a female version, it tells you that he got the body parts, separated them up, and thought, we'll start making the bloke one. You can tell that Frankenstein is a man. You can see his nuts. So you know what you do. Again, the pedant...
That's an actual joke. I don't know what those are.
The pedant in me goes, they were bolts, Steve, but it's, you know, it's the same thing. But yeah, it's just... I mean, it's just a silly thing said to plug a film, though, isn't it? That's all it is. This person's now being written about in newspapers because they said a stupid thing. So on that note, Dracula is problematic because he's not vegan. Please follow me on YouTube.
Fair enough. Our next question is from Tom.
Are far-right women attractive?
Yes, far right. Are far right women attractive? Let's go to our far right supermodel, Cressida Wetton.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Well, I mean, look, let's be honest. You have a certain following amongst gentlemen. I'm not saying you're far right, by the way, but you have certain people who are like...
I'm saying I am far right and I don't have a following, and that's really unfair. Are they... Well, yes.
I've baffled you. You're annoyed.
Let women speak. What was the question? Are far right women attractive? Look, the point here is that the article I read, they're kind of talking about people trying to be attractive as if to say, oh, we know what they're up to. They're trying to be liked and get somewhere in life. It's like, yeah, that's why you wear a suit to a job interview, isn't it? Of course they're trying to... Who starts out by trying to look unattractive? Don't answer that, because I know what you think. It's kind of... It's obvious, isn't it?
Yeah. Also, there's the other thing about, like, some of those people are not far. Some of them are definitely far right. There are some ethnats that they refer to.
Thank heavens you
do. They want to kick out Jew. They want to kick out everybody who's not, like, you know, white Christian and can sort of doesn't have any ancestry from Italy or something like that.
Yeah.
But,
I honestly thought you were turning around saying some of them not even that attractive. I thought you were going to go down that route.
No, I got to be honest. They were attractive. I mean, they were.
Based and Bougie was mentioned in that article.
I know she's
a classic, not far right, very attractive.
Yeah.
You know, and she's a perfect example of somebody who presents herself well. Of course she does.
I mean, it kind of does it for me when there's like someone who's like really hates Jews and is very beautiful.
It's difficult to work out.
Like, I'm so conflicted here.
It's not just one spectrum, is it? It's a quotient of how attractive someone is versus whether you agree with their views or not. If they're really attractive, you will go along with a lot.
That's men.
That's a life as men. And the argument that we all try and make ourselves look attractive. I've grown a weird tash and I'm attempting a comb over. I'm not incredibly sure that we all care about our looks when we reach my age.
Well, that's because you're very far right.
That's what. Yeah, might as well.
Well, let's get our final question from Vahid.
Hi, Josh.
Hey.
Has a disability charity discriminated against women who state biological reality?
Has a disability charity discriminated against women who state biological reality? So this is members of a marathon choir are taking legal action against a disability charity after being dropped from singing over the founder's gender-critical beliefs, i.e. there are only two sexes and men can't be women and whatever. So the dispute has reignited debate around free speech, protected beliefs and inclusion policies in British public life. You come here regularly, you probably saw this story. We had Janet Murray, she was here, she's been on the show, she was talking about what happened and how this choir essentially were not allowed to perform. Initially, they got later then re-invited, but they decided not to. Now she's suing them. Do you think that's the right action? That's how we're going to hold these organisations to account?
I'm just going with the law. You have two sexes and that's it. And you have to, stick to that.
Yeah.
So,
fair enough. Well, I mean, do you think that that's how we're going to finally deal with this ideology, is that you have to sort of almost take every organisation if they are breaking the law?
Well, I guess so, but it's heads on spikes, isn't it? And I'm surprised that Scope haven't sort of seen the heads on spikes that have already happened, but I guess it's going to take a while. And what a shame, because it's a charity, you know, nobody wants to sue a charity, it's horrible.
Well, it might be that if she wins, she'll get the money, and I imagine
of course.
I don't want to... No, Janet's watching, I'm sorry. I don't want to you're welcome to keep the money if you want, but maybe she'll give it to another charity.
You're like that guy, woman, whatever in Scotland who's telling people what to do about reparations.
Yes, Janet, make sure that you give it as reparations to Palestine.
Look, just a bit of pushback for balance on this one. I really care that I thoroughly agree with all the political views of everyone in a choir when I hear it saying, I don't care if they're flat or sharp, but I want to know that they all thoroughly agree with me. I was going to go and see a musical last week, but I couldn't find out all of the political views of everyone in the choir. So I don't. Do they agree with me about the problematic nature of Dracula? If they don't, I will not watch it. Why do we have to care to that level? We now live in this world where you have to make sure your ice cream agrees with you politically. Come on, just choirs be choirs, ice cream be ice cream, and we just crack on.
Well, Steve, I don't know if you've heard about this, but there are some people out there, they're called trans activists.
What?
And,
Are you talking about Frankenstein?
Don't bring up Frankenstein, that's very problematic. So, a spokesman for Scope said, we are aware of the intention to bring a claim, but it would not be appropriate for us to comment further at this stage. Next on Free Speech Nation, we're going to be talking about a landmark new book that grapples with controversial topics such as mass migration and its impact on free speech. I'm going to be talking to its author, Benjamin Jones. That's up next. You don't want to miss it. And after that, we have Sal Grover coming in from Australia, but I mean online. See you in a couple of minutes.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, plenty of settled weather over the coming days for much of Europe as generally high pressure builds. Sunny spells across the Canaries through the rest of the weekend into Monday. On the sunny side and dry across much of Spain and Portugal. Showers, though, some of these heavy across France, northern Italy, but drier further south and across into Greece and Turkey as well. Temperatures rising 25, 26 Celsius. Plenty of sunshine to come over the coming days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We still have an unsettled start to the week. Showers, longer spells of rain moving through before it gradually turns warmer later on in the week. So low pressure is continuing to dominate, centre of the low across northern parts of Scotland. Westerly winds and frontal systems bringing a focus for showers. So showers really across the board as we go through this evening, mixed with clear spells. Some longer spells of rain coming through across Northern Ireland, pushing its way eastwards into northwestern parts of England, into Wales and the southwest of England. Some of that rain could turn heavy at times. Either side we will have clear spells. Temperatures falling away across northern parts of Scotland, perhaps with a touch of frost and some mist and fog patches here too. But a brighter start than recent days, especially across the north of Scotland, more in the way of sunshine across the south of Scotland. As we start Monday morning, there will be some showery outbreaks of rain. A brighter picture across Northern Ireland, a few showers in the mix, but more longer spells of rain now into the Midlands, into the southwest of England. A bright and dry start across the south and east. That band of rain will start breaking up as we go into the afternoon, and then widely showers breaking out. There will be sunny spells, showers. Some of these could be on the heavy side, but turning drier across Northern Ireland. Hazy sunshine as we go into the afternoon and some brisk winds. So hopefully feeling a little bit more pleasant across Northern Ireland. Highs here of 14 degrees. Across the south and east, a bit more cloud, 15 or 16 degrees. Then it's widely wet and windy as we start Tuesday morning. A band of rain pushing its way north and eastwards, accompanied by some brisk southwesterly winds. Behind that, it is a case of sunny spells and a scattering of showers. That theme continues as we go into Wednesday, but temperatures are on the rise by later on in the week.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You have the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Now, do you remember this?
Nations depend on rules, fair rules. Sometimes they're written down, often they're not. But either way, they give shape to our values. Without them, we risk becoming an island of strangers, not a nation that walks forward together.
Well, the PM might have doubled back on that statement, but one person that hasn't is Dr. Ben Jones, the author of Island of Strangers, Diversity, Decline and Free Speech in Crisis. It contends that Britain is being transformed, is becoming less free, and the situation is getting steadily worse. Well, please welcome to the show, author Dr. Benjamin Jones. So I'm assuming that is where you got the title for your book.
That's right. Credit to Keir Starmer for that, at least. I think I must be the only person in England who's voluntarily watched a Keir Starmer speech more than once. But I do have to credit him with that. I risk losing your audience immediately by making a controversial claim, which is that Keir Starmer is correct, at least about that Britain has been turned into an island.
But he later
of
rescinded
strangers.
that statement.
He rescinded it. The Labour Party is still very cross about it, and Wes Streeting mentioned it in his resignation letter a few days ago. But Keir Starmer was right. Britain has become an island of strangers. And when you look at the statistics for mass migration and measures of diversity, something like 1 in 30 people living in Britain arrived in the last 4 or 5 years. 10% of England's population do not identify with any British national identity. There are more Muslims now living in the United Kingdom than there are Welsh people. So the demography of this country has been radically reconfigured already.
In a very short amount of time.
In a very short amount of time. And also, when you look at polling about this, even people who think this is really bad and are really concerned about what this means, people dramatically underestimate the extent of the transformation. There was one study that found that people underestimated the scale of migration by a factor of 10. So people, even now at this very late hour, don't quite appreciate just how radical the last 5 years, the last 5 or 6 years have been for multiculturalism, for the future of this country, for diversity. And the question I wanted to ask and answer in this book, Island of Strangers, is what are the consequences for that for freedom of speech? And there are lots of books that can be written about the consequences of multiculturalism and what I call hyperdiversity of this scale. But after spending more than 5 years working at the Free Speech Union, I really wanted to write about what I knew about, which is what is happening to freedom of speech in this country. Why do people feel so unfree, particularly when it comes to talking about Islam, immigration, diversity, race, multiculturalism? And it is that cluster of issues at the Free Speech Union that we're now seeing in our casework. We recently crossed over the point of having 6,000 requests for help in the last 6 years. And since Keir Starmer came to power, our workload has more than doubled. We had 2,000 new requests last year alone. And one of the first things that people say when they come to the FSU for help is they talk about their own situation. Maybe they've been arrested. Maybe their employer is investigating them for something they've posted on social media. Once they've told their story, they want to ask, why is this happening? What's going on? What has happened in the last 5 or 10 years that has made this country so unfree? And I think it is this transformation. It is the fact that we have become a hyper-diverse society. There are particular issues with Islam, which I speak about extensively in the book. But Keir Starmer was right about this. We have become an island of strangers. This has serious consequences.
Now is using it, but there are people saying that this is divisive.
Yes.
That arguably it's even, they were accusing it of sort of racism. Yeah. Is that, what do you think about that? What's your response to that? Is that another way of people being shut down from talking about these issues?
Yes, I think it is a way of shutting it down. It's very rare that politicians will even admit there is a trade-off between hyperdiversity and freedom of speech. There is only one prominent example, really, in recent years, which was from the Premier of New South Wales, who said that we do not have American-style free speech laws because we have to hold together a multicultural community. And when you start to look at what that requires, that is producing what so many people in Britain are now afraid of. It's producing two-tier policing, a two-tier approach to public order. It's producing a chilling effect where people do not feel free to speak about their concerns. It's producing the demonisation of Nigel Farage and the Reform Party and others on the right who have spoken about multiculturalism and Islam and demands for blasphemy laws and all the rest of it. I think we have now reached a point where it is impossible to continue to ignore these problems. All of them are erupting. Everybody watching this will have seen things this year alone where they will be astonished that these scenes are playing out in the United Kingdom. And that is what I want to explore in this book. I have to say, credit to my publisher, Little Brown. I think this is perhaps the most radical book on this set of issues.
They're a very established publisher.
Yeah, and at no point have they said you must tone down your conclusions or this is too radical, you must cut this out. And having seen so many people cancelled in publishing, it's been very refreshing actually for them just to say you have the experience of dealing with these issues on the front line at the FSU. Look into the deeper trends, look into what is happening, and I've been free to do that.
Do you see the positives? You know, people are like, oh, when diversity is our strength, and do you see that there is something positive to be taken from that, or is it just that the threat to free speech, in particular, the most fundamental of our rights, would just undermine everything that we have?
I think one of the facile things about the debate about migration in this country is that it is a debate about immigration, as if that is one phenomena, which it is not. We know that different migrant groups produce radically different outcomes. One of the most important conflicts in this entire area is one that I think audiences get very frustrated with people about because they do not speak directly about it and they're afraid of talking about it. And that is the conflict between Islam, and I deliberately use that word, not Islamism, Islam, and freedom of speech. And when you look at polling of British Muslims, generally overwhelmingly proud to be British and so on, but then you drill into attitudes about freedom of speech, and significant majorities, we're talking 50% to 68%, depending on which poll, think that insulting Islam or depicting Muhammad should be a criminal offence. And a significant minority, again, depending on what poll, something like 10 to 24%, think that violence is an acceptable response to that. And all of this is spilling out into our culture, into our politics. There was a story, I think, last month where guidance had been issued by Labour councils in Northern England saying that schools should not ask pupils to depict Jesus because that would be blasphemous to some Muslim students.
It's a Christian country.
Right. And so all of these things are going to have the most profound consequences, and the more diverse this country becomes, the more multicultural, I think the more we're going to see of a two-tier approach to public order and to social media posts and to policing, and the greater the demands for blasphemy laws that protect Islam. And I think it's very important to speak and think very clearly about why this is happening and what is likely to happen in the future. And so credit to Keir Starmer, he got this one thing right and then immediately apologised for it. But I do think we need to speak very directly about all of this.
Well, you certainly came on the right TV show to talk about that book. Big round of applause, please, for Benjamin Jones and Island of Strangers, which I personally very much look forward to reading. Next on Free Speech Nation, a landmark Australian court ruling has doubled compensation for a transgender woman removed from a female-only app. We'll be discussing the fallout from this controversial case with Sal Grover, who has been fighting this now for years. We will see her just in a few minutes.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain,
with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News Bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News. Britain's news channel.
We're here at Lucky Hedgehog Rescue in Grimston in East Yorkshire for Hedgehog Awareness Week this week, and we're joined now by the founder, Lucy, of the charity. Lucy, hello. You're just about to take Ben out here. You've got 43 sick and injured hedgehogs here at the moment. Just tell us what's wrong with Ben.
Ben had a broken leg and it was a nasty fracture, and our lovely vets at Barton Veterinary Centre in the Humber have amputated the leg. It's a hind leg, and he's thriving really, really well, but we have to take them case by case. But I'm just going to check on him again and weigh him while you're here, so we don't unnecessarily disturb him. But this is what we have to do every day anyway, so we've saved him for you.
Thank you. So I'll just let you take Ben out now. You've been going for 13 years now. This is sort of part of your home, is the Hedgehog Rescue. Slowly and slowly you've been expanding to look after one of the nation's favourite, or beautiful Ben there, the hedgehog. Obviously this week is all about raising awareness for hedgehogs. What are tips that people can follow to look after hedgehogs that they may see in their gardens and around?
Well, the main injuries we get in are caused by dog attacks and strimmers. We've lost thousands to them. So if people can be aware of their dogs at night or at dusk, keep them on a lead or be with them in the garden so that they don't attack hedgehogs. Strimmers, learn to use them properly.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. A landmark Australian court ruling has doubled compensation for a transgender woman who was removed from a female-only app. Judges found they were directly discriminated against, reinforcing protections under gender identity laws. Well, we are joined now by the Giggle for Girls app founder, Sal Grover. Big welcome, big round of applause, please.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sal, I think people across the world, frankly, were kind of praying for you this week, praying that it would be over, but it was not meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you one thing. I'm shocked and I'm sort of devastated and I'm appalled, but I'm not the one who's embarrassed and humiliated by this. I'm not the one who is trying to force people to believe a lie or to take away anybody else's rights. So I think all of the shame sits on the other side, and to be honest, on the judges who have made such a ridiculous ruling while they're trying to claim that the law sort of forced their hand to do it. It's just simply not true. The evidence which the court's supposed to enjoy is in the decision and the legislation. The decision is full of activist language like cisgender and transgender. Those words don't even appear in our Sex Discrimination Act. It's gender identity that does. So it's just they're just adopting activist language. I would suspect that it's the influence of the Australian Human Rights Commission, which is completely captured by gender ideology. So while this is a devastating decision, obviously one thing that we are showcasing is that the Australian judiciary is captured by an ideology. And I think it's important to highlight that.
Essentially, what's now been kind of basically stated in Australian law is that women do not have the right to single-sex spaces, that they don't have any single-sex rights at all.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we are not even a defined category in law. Any man can identify into it. One of, I think, the most chilling, disturbing, and stupid parts of the decision is they have said that it is direct discrimination because I've acknowledged that he looks like a man, and looking like a man is effectively a protected characteristic of being a trans woman. I can't even say this with a straight face. It's just so ridiculous. So basically, if you say like that, not only is that a man, but that looks like a man because he's a man, that's direct discrimination under Australian law. This is not sustainable. What are they going to do? Punish every single person down to infancy who has the human instinct to be able to acknowledge a member of the opposite sex? They can't. It's not possible.
Well, it's amazing that we actually got to this point even. I mean, people out there are just sort of in awe of you. You've been fighting this for years. I think you were talking about like you were pregnant and now your kid is 4 years old now?
Yeah. Yeah, my dad, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. My dad has come over and he's looking after my 4-year-old watching Bluey in the next room right now. Yeah, it's been from when I was 14 weeks pregnant till now. So it's been almost 4.5 years. I mean, to be honest, I feel like I'm unwillingly in an abusive, coercive, controlling relationship with the Australian government, and I want out of it. I think that they, for whatever reason, I wouldn't dare guess, believe that they can force citizens to believe this ideology. Like Australia is trying to run itself as test case 101 of gender ideology versus society. I think that it's a fool's errand. I think that they will fail. I think it's very fitting that Giggle v Tickle has made Australia the laughingstock of the world. But, you know, it's beyond, like, there's so many just astounding issues in this case. There's women's rights, there's, you know, just basic reality. And then on sort of the personal level, it's the punishment, but this is what other women would be looking down the barrel of. Originally I was told, and this is a free speech issue, I was told that I had to pay him $10,000 because I laughed very momentarily at a meme during cross-examination in court. And so there was a scandal around that of why would anyone want to ever be a witness again in court, because you can now be punished for having an honest reaction. But they've doubled the damages and it's now $20,000, sorry. Because they say I've called him a man in 50 interviews, and I'm just going to say that's incorrect. It's many more. I've never once called him a woman. So my position is, what are you going to do? Are you just going to continue punishing me for telling the truth? Because I'm not going to stop telling the truth.
Absolutely. Well, the fight continues. You're an inspiration to many people across the road. I'm so sorry that you're having to go through this. I'm sorry you have to wake up at 5 in the morning to talk to us. But thank you so much. Big round of applause, please. Sal Grover. You can also look up online and contribute to her case. Thank you for joining us for Free Speech Nation. Thank you to all my brilliant guests this evening. Also, thank you to the live audience here. You can go to gbnews.com/tickets to join us. And stay tuned for the brilliant Alex Armstrong. That's tonight. He's going to tell you what's on the show now.
Thank you, Josh. Yes, Zach Polanski's been caught with his pants down, hasn't he? I've got a litany of things he's been caught out about over the last few weeks. It's very, very interesting stuff. Plus, the Brexit civil war's happening inside Labour. Will they ever learn that working class people that used to vote for them want Brexit to stay as it is? And some interesting stuff about ECHR judges. That's all coming up next.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We still have an unsettled start to the week. Showers, longer spells of rain moving through before it gradually turns warmer later on in the week. So low pressure is continuing to dominate the centre of the low across northern parts of Scotland. Westerly winds and frontal systems bringing a focus for showers. So showers really across the board as we go through this evening, mixed with clear spells. Some longer spells of rain coming through across Northern Ireland, pushing its way eastwards into northwestern parts of England, into Wales and the southwest of England. Some of that rain could turn heavy at times. Either side we will have clear spells. Temperatures falling away across northern parts of Scotland, perhaps with a touch of frost and some mist and fog patches here too. But a brighter start than recent days, especially across the north of Scotland, more in the way of sunshine across the south of Scotland. As we start Monday morning, there will be some showery outbreaks of rain. A brighter picture across Northern Ireland, a few showers in the mix, but more longer spells of rain now into the Midlands, into the southwest of England. A bright and dry start across the south and east. That band of rain will start breaking up as we go into the afternoon, and then widely, showers breaking out. There will be sunny spells, showers. Some of these could be on the heavy side, but turning drier across Northern Ireland. Hazy sunshine as we go into the afternoon and some brisk winds. So hopefully feeling a little bit more pleasant across Northern Ireland. Highs here of 14 degrees. Across the south and east, a bit more cloud, 15 or 16 degrees. Then it's widely wet and windy as we start Tuesday morning. A band of rain pushing its way north and eastwards, accompanied by some brisk southwesterly winds. Behind that, it is a case of sunny spells and a scattering of showers. That theme continues as we go into Wednesday, but temperatures are on the rise by later on in the week.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Vox Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
The GB News audience is different, it's unique, because they see through the nonsense.
We want to debate with each other, we want to listen and maybe learn.
We have a chat. That's what we do. We try and have a chat.
They'll watch my programme while they're eating their tea, they'll watch breakfast while they're busy getting their kids ready for school.
We want to hear what matters to you, what is news for you.
And what's brought you out here today?
What are the biggest issues affecting this particular area?
The audience are the best thing about GB News.
Their friends, their family.
They're people who need to have their voices heard.
They're passionate about the channel, they're passionate about what they believe in.
The one thing about GB News is you get a chance to speak.
Talk to me about why so many people have gathered here today.
Do you want to say something back in return?
The GB News audience is what makes GB News special.
It's incredible to see.
They shape our programmes, they shape our output, and they shape our channel.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Alex Armstrong tonight.
Britain's future lies with Europe and one day, back in the European Union.
Well, don't say I didn't warn you. Labour leadership candidates are plotting now a very, very open takeover to send us back into the EU. And I suspect it's going to be without a single vote even cast. When are they going to learn? Also... My eyes are bleeding. Polanski has been caught with his pants down, hasn't he? Is this man the biggest charlatan in British politics? And...
Very clear as a government that, as the Prime Minister has made clear, we won't be leaving the European Convention on Human Rights. That has other consequences that we think are not in our national interest.
Yeah, talking of national interests, a little bit of a shocker here. Nearly half of ECHR judges, some of whom may have stopped the UK from deporting illegal migrants, weren't even judges in their own countries. Is the whole court a total sham? And...
If the people of Makerfield want Andy Burnham, they're going to vote for Andy Burnham. Right. Pretending that if I start doing some deals, all that shows is weakness on my part.
And with new polling in Makerfield showing Andy Burnham would beat reform by just 3%, is it time the Tories and perhaps other right-wing parties stood aside? Also... Well, human traffickers are fueling the illegal migration crisis, and they're using TikTok like travel agencies to promote their evil and illegal trade. And also, in the last hour, everyone was pleased to hear about the consideration of a bid for the north of England to host the Olympics, right? Well, that was everyone other than one man, Sadiq Khan. And on my panel tonight, making his debut on this show, Labour MP for Brent West, Barry Gardiner, journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, and businessman and activist Adam Brooks. Trust me, you're never going to guess who sings the next part of this clip.
So gallantly streaming, and the rock.
It is the weirdest thing you'll ever see this week. I will play it for you, I really promise you. You cannot miss that. Huge 2 hours coming up on the show, but first we're going to get your news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Alex. Good evening to you. 2 minutes past 9. Our top stories. The Culture Secretary says it will be a personal decision for the Prime Minister over whether he wants to fight a Labour leadership contest. Lisa Nandy criticised speculation about a battle for the top job as froth and nonsense, but voiced support for Andy Burnham, saying he would be a real asset to the Labour Party if he returns to Westminster. However, she said Wes Streeting risks restarting Brexit wars by calling to rejoin the European Union, which he did yesterday in his pitch to oust Sir Keir Starmer. Lisa Nandy says she's standing by the Prime Minister.
I support the Prime Minister. I think he has defied the odds many times, and he made a promise to the British people, which he feels strongly he doesn't have the right to walk away from, and he is going to deliver. The Prime Minister's been clear that he's going to fight. He's been clear that if there was any challenge, and there hasn't been a challenge, that he's going to stand in that contest. And he's been clear that we've got to usher in a decade of renewal in order to solve the problems that people face. And he deserves our support for that, and he has mine.
Donald Trump's issued a fresh threat to Iran after talks with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The US president says the clock's ticking and Iran better get moving fast or there won't be anything left of them. It echoes his threat made in April that a whole civilization would die unless Iran agreed to a deal. His conversation with Mr. Netanyahu comes days after he had talks in Beijing, after which President Trump said his counterpart Xi Jinping agreed Tehran must reopen the Strait of Hormuz. An outbreak of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda has been declared a public health emergency of international concern. The WHO says more than 300 suspected cases and 88 deaths have been reported, the majority in the DRC. But it adds the outbreak could be potentially much larger than current assessments, with significant risk of local and regional spread. There is currently no vaccine for this strain of the deadly virus, which is thought to have a fatality rate of 50%. The Met Police says urgent investigations are underway into allegations a number of Royal Protection officers left their posts unattended and slept while on duty at Windsor Castle. In June last year, an intruder managed to scale a wall and get into a restricted area before he was arrested. The Met's Professional Standards Department will assess whether any officers should be placed on restricted duties. A decision is expected before the end of next week. And Scottish rugby legend Scott Hastings has died at the age of 61. The British and Irish Lions centre won 65 caps in an 11-year Test career that began in 1986. He was part of the most recent Scotland team to win the Grand Slam in 1990 alongside his brother Gavin. Hastings announced in 2022 he'd been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which could not be cured. A statement released by his son Corey and daughter Kerry-Ann said Scott passed away peacefully with his family this morning, which also marked his late wife Jenny's birthday. And the iconic Spitfire fighter plane could go back into production 90 years after its first flight. A team of designers and engineers have built a concept model, the Aerolite Spitfire, using abandoned government plans from 1940. The new two-seater model costs about £750,000. A vintage Spitfire, of which only around a dozen remain operational, has a price tag of more than £3 million. You're up to date with the headlines. Now it's back to Alex.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Well, Zach Polanski's been caught with his pants down, hasn't he? In my opinion, he's a complete charlatan. He's grossly misled the public and has a CV of deceit that only makes Rachel Reeves' questionable employment look acceptable. Yes, here's a man who constantly demands we tax the rich harder, but couldn't even pay the council tax properly on his last place, believe it or not. Polanski argued in 2023 that council tax was regressive and should be scrapped, while at the same time failing to pay the levy on the houseboat he described as a home. He's now labelled it an unintentional mistake. Of course, the irony is completely lost on gullible Green voters, of course, isn't it? This apparent deceit doesn't end there, because I've got a list of things. Most recently, of course, he's been exposed for claiming he worked for the Ministry of Justice. Well, that was untrue. He was hired as an actor through a third-party company to play a crack cocaine addict. Here's a clip of his astonishing acting career. "5 seconds of fame, they might say. Well, so shocked he didn't make it over to Hollywood, eh? He also claimed he was a spokesman for the Red Cross. Well, the Red Cross, of course, denied that he ever worked for them whatsoever. Polanski had to then apologise again. And then, of course, we discovered the latest one. While he was out there telling Green candidates, "You've got my vote," the man hadn't even registered to vote himself. Can you believe it? You're the leader of a party and you haven't even registered to vote. When he was called out about this, he claimed he was worried about people knowing where he lives. But as any voter knows, anyone who's taken part in our democracy at least once, you can easily opt out of the public electoral register. So nice try, Zach, but I'm not gullible enough to buy that pathetic excuse. Let's not forget about when he was a hypnotist. He claimed he could enlarge women's breasts, which he then, of course, apologised for, before then being caught in yet another leaked radio interview, going back on his apology, claiming it somewhat worked. So, did he really apologise? Who can say? But what was even worse about all of that was when he allegedly told clients he was a member of the National Hypnotherapy Council. Well, that too was seemingly untrue, wasn't it? He claimed live on air that there is also no evidence of asylum seekers committing crimes like rape and sexual assaults in Britain.
Secondly, sexual assault is a deeply, deeply awful and tragic thing that we need to prevent and stop. But there is absolutely no evidence that the people who are sexually assaulting people are people seeking asylum. And
I'm sorry, there is. There's
convictions.
There is convictions.
Yeah, I mean, pick up a newspaper. I mean, literally, there are hundreds of them over the last few years. So that is another failed attempt to gaslight millions of people. Britain, I think, we've all had enough of charlatan politicians. We've been plagued by them for decades now. And if you said to me, would I rather watch the blockbuster movie Zach Polanski's made or vote Green, I'd say this to you.
Look at this. It's a Van Damme spoof.
I mean, you can't make it up. He just wants fame. doesn't he? And fair play to him. He's getting the fame he's dyed and dyed his political, his acting career, for over the last few years. But unfortunately for him, the evidence, the litany of those untruths is just building up and up and up. Look, joining me to talk about this now is Green Party activist Ashok Kumar and my panel, Labour MP for Brent West, Barry Gardiner, journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, and businessman and activist Adam Brooks. Ashok, I'll start with you, of course. Listen, I'll start by saying I know this isn't unusual in politics. We've seen politicians, lie to us in certain circumstances or tell us misleading untruths before. But this is quite a long litany, isn't it? It's quite a long litany.
Look, the level of scrutiny that he's under is understandable. We got the second highest vote share in the country, and so they're turning it up. And for anyone who's outside of my parents' generation, none of this is that controversial. People have many jobs. People move around a lot. Just last week, let me just say, Alex, you've explained it. Yeah. Just last week, there was a massive controversy. Oh, my God, he lives in a £2 million house in Hackney. Not very controversial there. Oh, my God, he's so rich. Turns out he has 5 flatmates and he's a tenant. Then it was, oh, my God, this loser who's 40 years old and has flatmates. What a loser. He's so poor. Which one is it? Is it that he's too rich or is it that he's too poor? And then the Red Cross thing. He organized many events. He spoke at those events. Yes, he called it a spokesperson. I think the bigger controversy is the fact that we have a prime minister who funded and armed a country that murdered Red Cross workers in Gaza. Well, where's the controversy there? Nobody even talks about that anymore. Ministry of Justice. He works for an agency in the Ministry of Justice. He said that was the Ministry of Justice. Well, what about a prime minister that's used the Ministry of Justice to go after thousands of legitimate protesters and proscribe them as terrorists? No controversy there. It's been called illegal. No controversy there. So actually, lots of these issues had come up prior to his running. We were bombarded as a Green Party for weeks and weeks, yet we still did way better than people expected. So I don't think people are really going for this. People know that he stands up for what he believes politically. His personal life is a sideshow. He's not bought out by billionaires. He's not bought out by Palantir. He's not bought off by Labour Friends of Israel, and people know that.
But I mean, look, the problem is, and look, it's not that he's changed jobs, it's that the language he's used to describe his jobs is untrue in some circumstances. We would hold the same scrutiny to Rachel Reeves when she, of course, held exactly the same scrutiny to her and to Angela Rayner and to other politicians when they failed to disclose the entire truth. And I think it's very, very important that politicians, when they are polling so highly, do get the scrutiny. They do get the scrutiny to say, well, if you're willing to be misleading about a lot of these things, and I'm not just listing off one thing here. Rachel Reeves is one thing where she had her CV was misquoting opportunities she'd had, supposedly. But here, this is 4 or 5 different litanies. Does it not say something about the type of person he is, Ashok?
The Green Party has consistently not criticised Angela Rayner and Rachel Reeves for these issues that they had in their life. Of
but what does it say to you?
What they criticise is their policies, and that's what we're focusing on. We're focusing on the political positions that people have. And the fact is that people understand that our politics have consistently polled 80, 90%. Especially we won under 65s. That's not that's not because of these minor confected controversies over the totality of one's life.
No, but if you want to be a serious party, and of course you are trying to be a serious party, and so you want to lead the country, you've got to make sure the man that you put into Downing Street, as we've seen with the current Prime Minister, is a man of dignity, he's a man that will tell the British people the truth. And I think you should ask the question, as Green Party activists and members, whether he is the right person to lead your party if you want to be serious. That's all I'm saying, Stu.
I'll just say briefly, that since he came into power, we went from 60,000, in 7 months, from 60,000 to 230,000. We went from 4.5% polling to nearly 20%. He's very popular in the membership, and he's not going anywhere.
Well, his unpopularity ratings have dipped quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. Before I come to you, Linda, I've got to go back to Barry, because there's a criticism aimed at the Prime Minister and your party and your government, Barry, about them funding Israel that might have bombed Red Cross workers. Go on, Barry, what do you say to that?
The criticisms I've made openly, and I've made them in Parliament. I've said that the way in which the government responded was complicit. So there's nothing new there. But look, I do think it's not good enough, Ashok, simply to dismiss this and say, well, because of our vote share, we're under greater scrutiny. That's not the point. The point is, when you're under that scrutiny, do the stories stand up? And they don't. To say, well, it was a mistake to say I only stayed on the barge, on the houseboat, occasionally, and then to say, well, maybe it was more than occasionally. A mistake to say he'd rented the bungalow, to say he didn't need to pay council tax. And then, come on, to plead the Nigel Farage defence, Zach Polanski pleading the Nigel Farage defence. Well, the reason was because of my security. You know, one thing for Nigel Farage to say, well, I got the £5 million for my security, but for Zach Polanski to say, well, the reason I didn't go on the electoral register was because of my security, when, as Alex says, we all know that you can keep your address off the register. It doesn't stack up. And I think that's why most people, and look, you've had a huge surge in the polls, I recognise that, okay? And not just in the polls, at the ballot box. But it is important that the person that all of us put in to lead our party can stand up to scrutiny. And in this case, I don't think
Which is what we do for the Prime Minister here, by the way. We do it for the Chancellor. We did it for Angela Rayner. We've done it for Nigel Farage about that specific donation Patrick was covering it the other night. We do have to give everyone the same level of scrutiny. Linda.
See, the thing is, I don't think that you can divide policy from values like integrity and honesty. And I think telling the truth is incredibly important. And I think what is happening in the electorate now is they are starting to decide that they don't trust any politician. While I admit that Greens did do well, and they will become a consequential party, I believe in this country, I think we're not seeing one isolated incidence of dishonesty. I think that we are actually seeing a trajectory. And what is really offensive is that when you've worked in the charity sector like I have, where I have friends who work for the British Red Cross, who have done a really decent job on their own careers, when you see someone massaging the facts around this way and giving some kind of alternative truth, I think it's highly insulting to those individuals. And it's not just the allegations over the British Red Cross. I know exactly what he did. He did one project, if that, for the British Red Cross, and then claimed that he worked for them. That's simply not good enough. You have to be a lot more precise in public life if you want to win people's trust.
Ashok, I'll let you come back to all this in just a second, but Adam, I want to hear your thoughts.
Look, you say you're a serious party. I think you are a party that sells fantasy politics, and you've got an actor that is fronting it. The man's whole life is a lie, including his name. His name is Dave Polden, for Christ's sake. This is a man, this is a party that used to be about rivers, trees and an environment, and now you're about Gaza, sex workers, decriminalising hard drugs and open borders. You are everything that the majority of this country do not want. Your leader, Dave Polden, knows less about the economy than me. I could sit here and I could hold my own, I think, with people asking me economic questions. You ask him a simple one, he freezes. He does not know what he's talking about. So you think that that man can lead this country is just, again, fantasy politics.
Ashok.
Well, look, I think it's very clear that even if you look at the Labour Party, they understand, this is what Clive Lewis said, that, every 10 seats they're losing to Reform, they're losing to 16 to the Greens. Now, I take some of the controversial questions around his personal life, but the idea that you're saying that they're not going anywhere in his fantasy is very clear, even if you look at where Andy Burnham is positioning himself, where at Miliband, even Wes Streeting, it's to try and capture the politics that, Labour once did. I mean, call it the hard left, call it progressive politics, whatever you want to call it. It's a caricature of what you're saying. Is that it's a politics of distributing wealth, where we have an unequal society, a politics of not supporting wars that are deeply unpopular, some of them genocides. Those politics are incredibly popular with the public, especially people, young people, minorities, others, and that's what he's speaking to. Now, you can say, why are they there? This is fantasy politics. Rent controls. Rent controls is a very popular politics in cities. People are being fleeced 40, 50% of their wages.
Where is rent controls?
Well, 16 countries in Europe have rent controls. They have less homelessness. It worked in this country between 1915 and 1987.
I think we're missing the point. It's about honesty.
Well, let me answer the question. Between 1915 and 1987, in Britain, we had a national system of rent controls. We built 300 to 350,000 houses per year. Since 1987, when we privatized the sector and got rid of rent controls, we built less than 200,000 a a year.
All right,
you want to see where it works? Look in your own backyard.
All right, last word to Barry.
Years ago.
Go on.
That wasn't 100. 1987 to 100 years ago?
50
You're
years
clearly
ago.
not very good at math, my friend.
You said 1915
No, I
or
said
whatever.
1915 to 1987.
All right, let's not worry about the mathematics. None of us are running the Treasury at the moment. Thanks.
It's not about
Go
the
on,
details,
Barry.
it is about the details.
It's
Go on,
about
let Barry talk.
Yeah,
let
that
Barry
is.
talk.
I'm being honest.
You're being factual. That's different.
Yeah.
Adam, I just wanted to say, look, broadly, I agree with you about Mr. Polanski.
Dave.
But, well, you called him Dave Poulton, but you don't do that with Tommy Robinson. You don't call him Stephen Yaxley Lennon. I've always thought that it's polite to call somebody by the name that they wish to be called. And so if you're going to do that with Dave Poulton, you've got to do it with Yaxley Lennon as
Fair
well.
enough.
Okay? I think that's just about consistency of the attacks
Point
that we
taken,
make.
yeah.
But I wanted to end on a note of agreement, because it's the first time I've ever come on GB News and found that a presenter is actually saying Rachel Reeves is acceptable. I think it's brilliant. Look what I can achieve by coming on your programme.
I'll never live that one down, will I? Listen, panel, thank you very much for a good-hearted debate there. A Green Party spokesman said this: until relatively recently, Zach was living on a houseboat which came with his own unique practical circumstances. He's immediately taken steps to pay any council tax he may be found to owe. On the MOJ story, they added that he worked for a programme to improve the diversity of justice appointments. In response to the claims of working for the British Red Cross, they say Mr. Polanski had been a host for several fundraisers and had appeared on a stage supporting their work. And finally, on claims of hypnosis, Polanski has repeatedly apologised, saying that while he was approached by a newspaper, it was entirely his responsibility for agreeing, suggesting the work was more about improving body image than literally changing the body. All right, look, time for a great British giveaway now. It's your chance to win £76,543.21 in tax. Yeah, it's great. It's great. Barry my answer. There you go. Tax-free cash. No, actually, you probably can't, Barry. Right. Here's all the details.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. Imagine all the things you could do with that cash. Give the garden a glow up, max out on a new motor, or just make sure the coming year is your year. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny for a chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up, a shocker truth about the ECHR that has been exposed. But before that, it seems like the Conservatives will stand in the Makerfield by-election. But does it risk splitting the right-wing vote, that is, allowing Burnham to clear a path to victory? That's coming up next on Alex Armstrong Tonight.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. We're going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, a civil war has broken out in the Green Party as to whether to step aside for Andy Burnham at the upcoming Makerfield by-election. Reports even suggest that Zach Polansky's party might stand aside, despite warnings from former leader Caroline Lucas, who urged him to put country before party, in what is expected to be a very close race between Labour and Reform UK. Well, a similar dispute is now playing out on the right of politics. Speaking to GB News, Reform's Andrew Rosendale declared that the Tories should withdraw from the race and puts the country before party by standing aside. Well, he says that they must split the vote and allow Labour to creep back in. Mustn't, I think is what he was trying to say there. Is he right? Well, joining me now is former Tory MP James Sunderland and Reform Deputy Leader in Durham, Darren Grimes. Darren, James, lovely to see you both this evening. Darren, glad to see you got back quick enough from the show last night as well. Darren, I'll start with you. Do you think the Tories should step aside? It's not just the Tories, they've also got other candidates standing on the right as well. Do you think there should just be a clean sweep on the right for Reform?
Absolutely, I do. You know, the Conservative Party taking that political party in isolation, they've been around longer than the light bulb and the telephone and the flush and toilet, Alex. But I have to say to you right now, the difference with all three of those is that they all still work. And I say thank God to that, because actually we need to flush the Tory party down the electoral lav. That's exactly what needs to happen. Ultimately, I think actually Makerfield, as the Greens have argued on the other side of the coin, Makerfield is Breakerfield, right? This is make or break, and the country is at breaking point, and it was the Tories that started that break within our country itself. They ought to do the patriotic, decent thing and step aside. They basically want to, I would put it like this, Alex, they want to run back into a house that they themselves set on fire, clutching an ickle-wickle plastic bucket, and tell us all that they're going to put out that fire. I don't trust them. The British public certainly don't trust them either. We saw that in the local elections. We took the blue wall. Essex fell to Reform. We took the red wall. Wigan, in Makerfield, in the area of Makerfield, Wigan turned Reform as well. We've gone further than Boris Johnson into the red wall, and we've captured the blue wall too. It's time to step aside and be serious. Only Reform UK is the viable choice.
James, over to you then. Do you think your party should step aside to allow Reform to stop Andy Burnham coming in? Because Keir Starmer is an electoral gift for the right, isn't he? Andy Burnham might put up a more formidable attack on you guys.
Well, what I've just heard is hypocrisy on a huge scale. Nobody considered Reform candidates standing aside when they took out 162 Tory MPs at the last election. Nobody asked the Reform candidate in Bracknell to step aside when I lost my seat to a Labour MP. So Reform has a lot to answer for, in my view. And the idea that a former Conservative MP in Andrew Rosendale, who I like and respect enormously as an individual, him coming out now and saying this, I'm afraid it's just ridiculous. The Conservative Party is the oldest and most successful political party in the world. Our policy position is pretty clear. We have a good range of policies. We have a great leader at the moment. We are closing the gap on reform. And the idea that we're not going to stand a Conservative candidate in a by-election is absolute nonsense.
I mean, James, the pushback I would provide is that the Brexit Party, which I would suggest as a former evolution of the Reform Party as it stands today, did stand aside for Boris Johnson previously and allowed you to beat Jeremy Corbyn in that critical Brexit election, as it was so dubbed. Is there not a little bit of camaraderie? It seems that the two parties, if I may be so bold, if our election held tomorrow, would have to join hands anyway. Surely is it not time to help each other out a little bit?
Well, strategically, there is an argument for discussions to be held behind closed doors. I mean, look at the right at the moment. You've got the Conservative Party, you've got Restore, you've got Reform. The idea that the three parties will be going unhinged into the next election is crazy, because what that will probably do is allow a coalition of the left, a coalition of chaos, to take the reins of power. But this isn't about Starmer, this isn't about Burnham, this isn't about the Conservative Party seeking to influence who the Labour leader might be. This is about the Conservative Party, which is a highly credible, highly respected, highly, historically successful party doing the right thing. And Kemi Badenoch today was quite clear when she said that, no, we're not going to step aside for Reform. If Reform wants to win that seat, it needs to win its seat on its own merits. My humble view is that they've got a tough act ahead, because Burnham is polling pretty well. The local vote is very popular for him, and quite clearly there are neutrals out there who might relish the thought of him being elected in Makerfield and then having run at Keir Starmer. So if you are into the chaos theory, then it looks like Burnham is the right choice for that.
Yeah, I'm always into the chaos theory, James. So it seems to be the likely outcome these days. Darren, I'll put it back to you then. Of course, in previous iterations of the Reform Party, they have stepped aside. But does it seem likely that you guys are going to need to eventually come to terms with the two parties cannot survive and win separately? You'll perhaps give that coalition of chaos to the left. Would your two parties be forgiven if you don't join hands at some point?
Not at all. Look, I've been told that Reform has peaked more times than a mountaineer. This is just absurd. The fact of the matter is, we stepped aside, as you said, in 2019. In 2024, why on God's green earth would we have stepped aside, right? In 4 consecutive Conservative manifestos, they promised to cut immigration at the tens of thousands. But in the 14 years that they were in power, they let in 12 million people. That's populations of Edinburgh, that's Leeds, that's Sheffield, that's Nottingham, that's Stoke. I could go on and on and on. That's 1 in every 25 people that you see out and about who've arrived here in the last 5 years. That is a anti-democratic transformation of epic proportion. More illegal crossings than those that actually stormed over those beaches of Normandy on D-Day. So I find it absolutely absurd that you say, well, the party is very old, so you ought to give us let us off with what we've done to the nation. No, I think actually the country are expecting us to go on, continue to get better electoral results, as we have done consecutively now in each of the elections over recent times, and we're going to do that in Makerfield. Makerfield will be the breaker field of both the Tories and the Labour Party, and we don't need the Conservatives to actually help us in that endeavour. But if they want to help the country, they ought to admit, apologise and stand aside, because they are still out of ideas. They still don't accept that they broke the country, despite the fact they left every school, every GP, every every social housing waiting list at breaking point. I should know that. I'm a deputy leader of a council. All of these things, I find the brass neck absolutely incredible. The horse and cart is also very old, Alex, but you don't see me galloping about advocating the use of that over the motor car. The idea, I think many of your viewers will be screaming at the telly, feeling utterly powerless, and that's because of both Labour and the Conservatives. So it's time for change, and it's time for reform.
James, can you give me a response in 10 seconds and what you would say to that?
Yeah, look, we all know about 14 years of growing wages, of near full employment, of low inflation, of economic growth. 14 years for me is not quite what 14 years means for reform. And we also know, of course, that until the Brexit Act was passed in 2020, we had no or little influence over immigration. The Conservatives have committed to leaving the ECHR after the next election. We're going to tackle the Human Rights Act as well. Our policy position is pretty good, and I would ask reform to row in behind us.
All right, you two. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Former Tory MP James Sunderland and Reform's Deputy Leader in Durham, Darren Grimes. Thank you both very much. Now, coming up, I will expose the not-so-sly ways in which the Labour government is aiming to drag us back into the EU. It is a civil war breaking out now. But next...
We're very clear as a government that, as the Prime Minister has made clear, we won't be leaving the European Convention on Human Rights. That has other consequences that we think are not in our national interest.
Look, there's a really serious revelation about the ECHR that should leave us all questioning whether the whole course is just a sham and should be exerting so much influence over our country's immigration policy indeed. I'm going to reveal that next.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, plenty of settled weather over the coming days for much of Europe as generally high pressure builds. Sunny spells across the Canaries through the rest of the weekend into Monday. On the sunny side and dry across much of Spain and Portugal. Showers, though, some of these heavy across France, northern Italy, but drier further south and across into Greece and Turkey as well. Temperatures rising 25, 26 Celsius. Plenty of sunshine to come over the coming days.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. We still have an unsettled start to the week. Showers, longer spells of rain moving through before it gradually turns warmer later on in the week. So low pressure is continuing to dominate, centre of the low across northern parts of Scotland. Westerly winds and frontal systems bringing a focus for showers. So showers really across the board as we go through this evening, mixed with clear spells. Some longer spells of rain coming through across Northern Ireland, pushing its way eastwards into northwestern parts of England, into Wales and the southwest of England. Some of that rain could turn heavy at times. Either side we will have clear spells. Temperatures falling away across northern parts of Scotland, perhaps with a touch of frost and some mist and fog patches here too. But a brighter start than recent days, especially across the north of Scotland, more in the way of sunshine across the south of Scotland. As we start Monday morning, there will be some showery outbreaks of rain. A brighter picture across Northern Ireland, a few showers in the mix, but more longer spells of rain now into the Midlands, into the southwest of England. A bright and dry start across the south and east. That band of rain will start breaking up as we go into the afternoon, and then widely showers breaking out. There will be sunny spells, showers. Some of these could be on the heavy side, but turning drier across Northern Ireland. Hazy sunshine as we go into the afternoon and some brisk winds. So hopefully feeling a little bit more pleasant across Northern Ireland. Highs here of 14 degrees. Across the south and east, a bit more cloud, 15 or 16 degrees. Then it's widely wet and windy as we start Tuesday morning. A band of rain pushing its way north and eastwards, accompanied by some brisk southwesterly winds. Behind that, it is a case of sunny spells and a scattering of showers. That theme continues as we go into Wednesday, but temperatures are on the rise by later on in the week.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
GB loyalty points are here. They're our way of saying thank you for spending time with GB News. Through commenting on your say, voting in You Decide polls and shaping the debate, you can earn GB loyalty points. Unlock rewards, reach milestones and climb leaderboards. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be part of them. Get started by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/loyalty points.
If you're just joining us now, where have you been? It's 20 to 10. Should have been here 40 minutes ago, shouldn't you? Right. Shocking revelation on the ECHR. Nearly half, 19 out of 44 of their judges, did not even sit on the bench in their own countries before being elevated to this very impressive legal body. Several were civil servants, others were career academics. So should they really be exerting so much influence over our country's immigration policy? Well, I've got my panel back in the room to talk about this. Adam, I'll start with you. The ECHR does wield a lot of power, doesn't it, in Britain? It basically scuppered the Rwanda deal. Yeah. And of course, has been a major point of frustration and policy discussion in Britain. Do you think judges that haven't even sat in their own country should be elevated to such a high position?
Absolutely not. I believe the ECHR is a corrupt organisation. I think Churchill would be turning in his grave. Obviously, he was part of setting it up. The world was a lot different there. Refugees meant a different thing to what these asylum seekers or fake asylum seekers are saying they are now. How can we have a judge, a foreign judge that doesn't know our country, tell us that we cannot deport a rapist, a murderer, a gangster? How can we not have sovereign control over our borders and our deportation protests? It's ludicrous, and that is why I welcome what Reform are saying. They're saying we're going to leave the ECHR, every one of their MPs will be signed up to it, and they're saying that not only that, we will leave the Refugee Convention, I believe, or a similar, that also causes us a problem, because we cannot keep going on where we're putting communities at risk with foreign criminals, dangerous foreign criminals, that we can't get rid of. And then comes the cost. We've got to pay for them to be in prison, we've got to fund their life here, they're never going to work. So look, things have got to change. And the only party that is going to do that, has got a chance at the next election, is Reform.
Barry, I'll pass over to you, because it's a massive point of contention in British politics now, isn't it, the ECHR? The Tories are pledging to leave the ECHR. They've done a big review of Lord Wolfson, the Shadow Attorney General. And, of course, in your party, Shabana Mahmood, who I think is very impressive, by the way, I think she's got a long way to go to actually get...
I'm really winning tonight. You've been nice about Rachel Reeves, now you're being nice about...
Listen,
you're going to get sacked. I'm going to be sitting in your chair.